And we're live. Another episode of Real News Wednesday. This one should be relatively interesting because we just had the Bilderberg conference, the G7, the fucking NATO conference. Actually, I think some of these are still ongoing. The SCO and the Trump Kim summit. So we've got pretty much every major nation coming together to decide what to do with Russia, Iran, and I think Saudi Arabia. And like, yeah, it's fucking nuts. It's not standard at all. But before we get too deep into this, this is brought to you by Brave. That's brave.com. And you can find a link to the Brave browser, which is an ad-free, tracker-free browsing experience, which supports creators like me directly instead of by the advertising model controlled by people that are very unsavory and would like to censor me. And if you're interested in doing that and supporting me at the same time, you can download it for free. In the description, there's a link for my referral code for Brave. There's also a link to Liberty mugs that you can use to piss off your coworkers. Additionally, there's a link to a browser extension you can get for Chrome-based browsers to passively mine Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies by extension, because you can trade anything for anything. And this is a good way to make a sort of passive income. You can invite as many people as you want, and up to, I think, 10 levels of referrals here. So jump on that while you can before the store takes it down or whatever, and get yourself some Bitcoins. There's many more ways to support the show in the description by the link to the Steemit article that I have there. So if you decide that those ones aren't for you, feel free to check out the others. But without further ado, there are two people in chat right now, and let's let them introduce themselves while I go pimp this video to some people.
I am Idiot's Query. You can find me on Twitter, Discord, pretty much anywhere for the most part. I'm trying to develop a whole thing going. I talk random shit for sure. I try to use as much reason as I possibly can. And that's about it.
This is Mance Raider. I'm the podcast host of Freeman Beyond the Wall, Mance Raider on Twitter. My website is freemanbeyondthewall.com. I've written a couple books. If you're interested in checking out my writings, go over to my website /store, and you can buy them on my website using cryptocurrency only, or you can go on Amazon and use fiat there. But yep. So just here to talk about the news. I've already done one live stream today talking about some news over in the European Union, and let's talk some stuff that's closer to home here.
All right. Well, we got Chairview here too. So Chair, introduce yourself, say where people can find you, and we'll get into the news.
Yep. Well, my name's Chairview. On Twitter, it's @Chairview, and on YouTube, it's just Chairview. Pretty easy and straightforward. So
cool. So on that level, Chair, you had some news already lined up. You had two stories, so you can pick one of them to start with. Then we'll get to Idiot's Query's story.
Yeah. Okay. Well, no. I thought the raccoon story was pretty funny. I don't know if you guys saw it or not. So they were following this raccoon for like a day and a half, and this raccoon was climbing this like 40-story building or something like that. It was a huge, gigantic building, and it was a big news story for like the whole day yesterday, where they were wondering whether or not this this raccoon was going to make it to the top of this 25-story building.
Yeah, I saw that. I made a comment on Twitter that got me some hate for saying that people don't pay this much attention to anything real. So
yeah, I know, that's true.
Like I'll look that up while the other people give their impressions on the story.
I just think it's really hilarious too. Yeah, you're right. That like people were so focused on this thing that they were so obsessed with it, and I didn't get it. You know, I looked at the video and I'm like, okay, it's a raccoon.
So these were my comments. It said, what was it? Oh, thousands of civilians a month on average die from collateral damage in strikes and other operations conducted by the U.S. and its many allies in the global war on terror by conservative numbers from the Watson Institute. Remember that while focusing on hashtag NPR Raccoon. And this guy says, I bet you're a real joy at parties. NPR Raccoon just brought the world together in a showcase of solidarity. Remember that while focusing your emery on making people feel like shit for rooting for an animal in distress. And I said, too bad. What?
You know what, motherfucker? How about the world coming together to stop the fucking cholera outbreak in Yemen?
That animal was not in distress though. He was having a good time.
And I like raccoons. I mean, I like animals. My heart goes out when I see an animal getting hurt. My heart goes out.
Yeah, I know, but I don't think he was.
They don't know what's they don't know what's going on with them. But it's like there is a lot of other shit that there are actual atrocities in the fucking world that can bring us together. But no, you don't give a fuck. So I'm done.
Yeah, my reply to this guy was, too bad that kind of solidarity isn't typically available for victims of police violence. I made one post, though, so if you call it focusing my emery, which is an abrasive cleaner, by the way, then you searching the tag for any dissent must be a full-time job. Pretty sad. So I responded with that. He says, you really do like the sound of your own voice, don't you, Danny Downer? FYI, I was searching the tags for updates on the raccoon. Simple one. It's best you invite someone else to play the role of attention giver in your life is pain pity party, because I'm done with you. And my thing to that was replies to a tweet, gets a response. You really do like the sound of your own voice, don't you? Sure, Jan. You've already played your role nicely. That role is random internet guy who can't take what he dishes. Maybe don't generalize next time. So he blocked me.
I was going to talk about this valedictorian, but basically the story was this girl in California had a speech that she was supposed to be valedictorian, and the speeches are supposed to be approved by the school, which I think is stupid. But anyway, so she starts going off script, and they cut her fucking microphone.
Yeah.
Because
what does she start saying?
She was trying to say that the school didn't do anything about her supposed sexual assault, and it's like, dude, that's a police issue. That's not a school issue.
Well, right, and it's not about her. It's about the fucking school.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
As soon as she started to go off script, they cut her off because they knew she was going to do something like that.
Some bullshit like that, yeah.
And it's like, I get it. If you were sexually assaulted, that's horrible. But the school should have at least either called the authorities, or if they didn't, at least you should have called the authorities. I mean, that's about all they could have done. But to blame the school for it, the school didn't do anything. It's not their job.
Well, and beyond that, there's also the fact that if you it's the prime picture of a modern feminist is somebody who makes every issue about them, isn't it? I can't stand that shit when you've got to make everything your platform and then deplatform everybody else. It's a really tantrum inducing sort of childish way to behave, but you can't really expect much more from this generation of safe spaces and post-truth modern bullshit. So
yeah, that's why I try to tackle him without I try to own those motherfuckers.
Why would you be such an idiot when you're getting into when you're getting into an Ivy League school when you leave high school? Why would you do that shit? Why would you do anything controversial like that?
Well, you should. If it was about police violence, if it was about, some if she did the effect of kneeling for the pledge, I would have been on board. But the moment you told me she's just whining about not the school not reporting something or other, it's irrelevant. It's totally irrelevant.
The problem is that even if it was about Black Lives Matter or something, your valedictorian speech at graduation is not the time to be doing that shit.
I wouldn't mind because it's talking about the world people are coming into, and I think that's the point of the valedictorian speech anyway. So I wouldn't mind it if it was that, personally.
I just think it's kind of funny that the valedictorian speech is from a high school student who doesn't know what the real world is yet, but he's trying to say
Right?
what the real world is. It's just like, you're full of shit, buddy. You don't even know yet, man.
I mean, she's going to Stanford.
I mean, I would. I love seeing anybody take a chance to shit on the cops. So.
Yeah,
that'd be cool.
And there was one other thing that I noticed that just happened. Apparently, that what? Oh, the net neutrality rules got repealed like yesterday, and already, Fox is being bought out by somebody else now.
And Time Warner is being bought by AT&T.
Yeah. Comcast wants to buy Fox. And they're offering $65 million, and Disney's only offering $52 billion. So, but I just find it funny that Comcast would do that immediately after the net neutrality rules. You know.
Well, there's a possibility that that's the only time they could do it. So, I mean, there is that part.
Yeah, maybe. Because it's just like
we're 6 months into the fiscal year.
I know, but if Comcast buys
coming
Fox,
to the end of the fiscal, coming to the end of the half year of the fiscal year, so normally
that'll be the end of rated R Deadpool type movies. You know, it'll be they'll probably destroy not that X-Men isn't already destroyed, but they would destroy that. But I think they want to do their own streaming service, and then they can offer the shows that are on Fox on their streaming service, right?
And how many people have heard of the Kim coin that's coming out in the Kim.com streaming platform?
Kim.com is still around.
Yeah, he's been around. I mean, you can't run Mega and not.
I haven't heard what's going on with that.
Well, he's gonna get his own cryptocurrency and use it to pay people for using his streaming services, which he's also developing.
Nice.
Because he wants uncensored streaming services.
Yeah. But the problem with these companies is they're going to charge so much more for high-speed services and stuff. And it just pisses me off that, like, everyone's like, oh, nothing's going to change. And then it's like, yeah, okay.
Yeah. How many coins are going to be free mined?
Because, we didn't have net neutrality. Like, we didn't necessarily have net neutrality before, but there weren't as many. There were still some regulations on it. Now there's a lot less. There's basically none at this point. So,
but I don't care about that. Like, I don't like government, and I'm not gonna like them any better just because they help me like watch YouTube videos. Like,
no, it's gonna. The problem is they're gonna charge these companies more, and then these companies are gonna have to charge you more for your internet.
Maybe.
That's where it will affect you. That's the only spot where it might affect the customer.
Maybe.
Right?
Why would okay, here's the question. Why would any corporation which benefits from ad traffic slow down ad traffic? That seems dumb to me.
Comcast are assholes though.
Yeah, but being assholes doesn't mean that you're going to be an asshole in that way. You got to be rational.
Has always done that though. Like that's
you have to build up your revenue, man. Like I understand being an asshole and like
they've been mistreating customers for a long time, haven't they?
I mean, some of them, yes, but that's part of the problem is that they're a regional monopoly. That's what needs to change. Not better, like better pro-neutrality legislation.
Oh, I agree, and I hope that more of the free market coming in will help them do that. I hope.
Yeah, the regulated market, because that's one of the points I regularly make is that we don't live in a free market.
Okay, well, it could be that this change could be really good or it could be really bad. We don't know yet. So
yeah, well, it's going to be good to see it tested at least.
But like companies buying other companies, that happens all the freaking time. It's not a surprise. I mean, yeah. So
Well, especially mergers. I mean, mergers are typically the best for the company in general. I mean, and especially the best for profits because, you know, if you make a good merger, then you can get the best of both worlds and stop like primarily utilizing services. And as long as you don't get too monopolistic so that you have too many irons in the fire, like a merger could be really good for a lot of these corporations.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you know, if they want to be sane about it, then they'll divert the savings onto the customer as well and make things cheaper, not more expensive. That's a good way to lose your customers.
Other than that, with the news, the only other news really right now, the only really big story was the stupid Trump Kim Jong-un crap.
Well, and I wanted to go over that a little, but before that, Idiot's Query had a story.
Yep.
Yeah, my story that I saw was about this 4-year-old. He got hit with a stray bullet from a couple houses down, and his grandma called the cops and everything like that, and they put her on hold, and they weren't going to help her, and she was on the line for quite a while. It was quite bullshit, and like that made me think of like, well, and this is like one of the big arguments I see all the time is like, well, what are we going to do about, you know, police force and all that? You know, we rely on them and everything like that. We need to, so we pay taxes and all that good shit. And me, been like, oh, taxes are theft, motherfucker. Is showing that if you pay this, you need to get it immediately, and that's what you get when you do it through private companies, right? This whole like we're not going to be able to get there in time because we have so many busy phone lines and everything like that. I get that emergencies happen, but it's also complete bullshit at the fact that they put her on hold when she's supposedly paying for that. So you can't tell me anymore that taxes mean that we have all these services that we benefit off of when little fucking kids are dying from that bullshit. You know, it's fucked. The kid didn't die,
like
but the motherfucker was dying.
Fire departments were like, oh, you got to pay this tax, and if you don't pay this fee, we're gonna let your house burn down.
Well, and you know that's one of the primary arguments against like things like anarcho-capitalism, where you have a model where people pay for services, but like realistically, there are things that exist right now. The Detroit Threat Management is something I constantly bring up. It's like I'm a spokesperson for them. You know, hire me, Dale, if you're listening. But effectively, they'll give services to people on like a sort of, think of it like a free trial basis. They'll still patrol your neighborhood. They'll still keep you safe because it's good for their clientele to do so. So,
yes, exactly. I mean, and like another point of that is that businesses like the defense contractors, which would be pretty much a private police, and also like firemen and everything like that, it is in their best interest to help save you. They might give out a couple freebies, but then again, if you didn't pay the price, they're probably going to let your house burn. But they're going to save the people who did pay it. See, and that's the thing, though. Good PR and good and free services every once in a while, free samples, if you will help people go, oh, okay, yeah, I want to pay for that. This happened to me. And then the next person, if they didn't pay they got the free service the first time because the company was like, yeah, dude, we'll save you, no problem. Like, oh, awesome, thank you. They're more inclined to pay for that service again, or to pay for it in general, actually. And so that's another thing that people don't realize with anarcho-capitalism. You're going to have all these businesses competing for what society needs, like policemen, fire departments, and everything like that. And they're not going to just let houses burn. They will if you don't pay it, but then their competitor will come in and give their free sample. And then it keeps on going, right? But then again, you can still...
That's part of the problem is that people assume what they will do instead of understanding that in order to like talk appropriately about markets, you know, and non-public services, they don't even have to be private. They can be like, you know, a communal service or a mutualist service or whatever. But
people assume that communities won't or develop within anarcho-capitalism.
Right. Well,
and that's completely wrong. They totally will, and they'll look out for their own because it's in everyone's best interest if they're all still alive.
Well, and you know, you can't have clients for your other shit that you do if your clientele starts to go missing, you know, be killed, be kidnapped, be beaten by roving gangs, be, you know, fucking have their house burned down so that they're living in the streets and they can't afford what you make. It's insurance. It's an insurance policy for a lot of, you know, more wealthy people to keep their neighborhoods nice by not letting houses burn down. I mean, so it seems absurd to me that in a competitive marketplace there wouldn't be some sort of like market for people to still do that sort of thing in an anarchist context. It seems to me like fear mongering.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So I mean, like, because if there weren't any of these fucking good Samaritan laws, especially in fucking fuck you California, especially in California, I you know, there would be a shit ton more people like me incentivized to go help people, right? But there's not. Like, there's all these laws in place to basically protect people who are litigious and fucking lawsuit happy, you know. So
Yeah, and like the.
Go ahead.
There would be more incentive if you didn't make it a obligation, or there would be more incentive if you didn't make it an obligation to help other people, and things like that, you know. Or like if you did help someone and they got in trouble, it's like, well, what the fuck? Why am I helping them if I'm getting in trouble for this? And then
Well,
I'm
right,
going to.
and like a
You
diversion
can't
of
make it.
responsibility too. Like, if I
Yeah.
paid my taxes, I'm a good person. I don't need to help you specifically. The cops will take care of that.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of bullshit. Like, there's no sense of community.
Like, yeah, it pushes it very far away from you, and it's
Yeah.
sort of like it can't happen here. Well, it's happening here. Well, I already paid my taxes. Don't need to worry about that.
Exactly. Until it's a direct effect, until they actually pay for it by themselves. Like, oh, here's my wallet, here's my money, instead of, oh, yay, I'm getting paid, and oh, I lost like a quarter of my paycheck because someone just janked that shit before I had a chance to tell them what I want to buy.
You know,
It's kind of
people can
bullshit,
talk-
you know.
People can talk shit. People can talk shit all they want about the Free State Project, but you know, those guys up there, everyone's carrying guns. Everyone's, you know, relying on them. Everyone's relying on themselves to provide their own safety. They're not calling the cops. They're trying to stay away from them as much as possible. And I think that's a good example of what life would be like.
And now
someone feel free to shit on them. Go ahead.
Well, I you know, I have my issues with it. Like, my primary issue is that in strategic terms, going to one single town, and having all the most free-thinking people there is a good way to put all your eggs in one basket and lose. You know, because I think that there's going to be blood in the streets. But you know, that's me. I'm like apocalyptic fire and brimstone, rivers of blood, pessimist, crazy guy over here. But at the same time, it's just strategically dumb. I mean, the only reason it works is theoretically is trying to affect legislation, which I don't even think works.
Yeah,
but
all it does is a sample size.
It's definitely a good group of people, and I don't shit on them.
Yeah, you just don't want a permanent stance of it. Yeah.
But not everybody's even voting up there. Not everybody, you know, that's
right.
That's not something everybody chooses to do. It's more of a support system. It's more like what we would expect to see in the future if we got our way.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, but my point is that I want these support systems everywhere. I want centers everywhere, not in one center. That's part of the thing.
Yeah.
Like, you can't fight centralization by centralizing.
Problem is, you have to have people who are willing. You have to have people who are willing to do it. People who are willing to be pioneers.
And you have to have people who proof of concept it. You know, like, because nobody's just going to do mass adoption of this into the market because it still sounds scary, especially with, you know, the trash can kickers.
Right.
Yeah.
Because Mance, you wrote a book on that, so you could do a quick plug on that and you know, tell people where they can find it if you wanted to.
What about the SJWs and the fucking Antifa and those guys?
Yeah,
I just decided to, I don't know, maybe I wrote it for myself, who knows, but people seem to like it. It's called The Kids Are Not All Right. It's about basically the ideology and where it comes from, the background, the more Marxist ideology, and I make the point that they are definitely borrowing from the fascists as well.
And by the way, I want to go on record as saying I don't think all Antifa are bad, and I know quite a few of them who are actually anti-fascist and don't want to just form a left-wing form of fascism. So I want to go on record as saying that I've spoken to many Antifa personally who are actually serious about opposing fascism, and I'm not going to lump them all in together. And
I mean,
also,
technically, I'm anti-fascist too. So,
yeah,
you know.
I mean, then I hope they're anti-government. I hope
they're
they're
anarchists.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean,
because you can't be Antifa and like support government, because all government's going to trend toward either fascism or it's fairly ideologically like identical totalitarianism. So I mean, especially since the smallest governments turn into the biggest tyrannies. But I do want to go on record as saying that I'm not one of the people who's like throw commies out of copters and into wood chippers and whatever, even though I understand that it's just a joke. You know, I'm not one of those people, but at the same time,
that's using force for sure.
But at the same time, I recognize the utility of having a book which calls people out on their bullshit. And Antifa, if you want to improve, read that fucking book.
I would have no problem aligning with these people so we could get stuff done. And then, you know, after what we need to get done gets done, we go our separate ways and everything. But I don't. I'm also not a trusting person. You know. So
well, right.
Yeah, and and some of the things they say about capitalism, or you know, it's like I had one tell me, you know, if there's a capitalist 1,000 miles away from me, they're a danger to me. You know, so I mean, it's it's kind of hard for me to. I'm not very trusting when it comes to them. I'm better at trust but verify when it comes to people who are speaking my own language.
Oh, but listen and believe. Haven't you heard that?
Have you guys heard about the whole California splitting into 3 states thing?
Yeah, it's not going to happen. Distraction.
The vote's already scheduled to be happening, but
yeah, but it's not going to happen. In my hometown, they can't even get on the same page about weed. So I mean, realistically speaking, California sucks ass. It sucks ass through a straw. They can't unify on anything, much less division.
Yeah, I know.
So yeah, it's just a distraction. It's the elites telling you focus on this instead of the other more important shit. It's like the Raccoon, only you know, in politics instead of climbing a building.
What is the more important shit right now, though? I mean,
okay, well, let me swallow the bit of beef I was chewing. I really shouldn't do that. I should eat before I start these things, but but let me read something here. It's from activistpost.com. You can find Activist Post like if you're interested in any sort of up-to-date sort of alternative media and conspiracy shit, just go to this site because they're one of the legitimate ones. They're sort of like True Stream Media, only in text. In fact, they have True Stream Media posting there as well. So this one's by Brandon Turbeville. It's Presidents Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un are perhaps the 2 most unpredictable leaders in the world, with everyone wondering from day to day what new provocative statement will be ushered from official channels. However, the 2 most unpredictable leaders appear to have found common ground, perhaps even kindred spirits, during the course of the Singapore summit, when both men came away with an apparent mutually beneficial deal that will see the de-escalation of tensions between, on the Korean Peninsula. And this article is the Trump-Kim deal really peace, or is it a setup for war? While there have been no real concrete agreements as a result of the talks, the North Korean side has pledged to its commitment to the denuclearization of the peninsula, while the American side has strongly suggested that it will put its military exercises on hold with South Korea. The first step seems to be an agreement for both sides to work toward recovering the remains of the Korean War dead and their immediate repatriation. Sorry, fucking still chewing on this beef. Sorry, vegans. Beyond that, the statement agreed to by both parties reads as follows: President Donald J. Trump of the United States of America and Chairman Kim Jong-un of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea held a first historic summit in Singapore on June 12, 2018. President Trump and Chairman Kim Jong-un conducted a comprehensive, in-depth, and sincere exchange of opinions on the issues related to the establishment of the new U.S.-DPRK relations and the building of a lasting and robust peace regime on the Korean Peninsula. So that I'm not going to read the whole letter there, but the reaction from American political circles, while Republicans, having never met a war they didn't like, attempted to keep their rage at the idea of peace under control, many like chicken hot Lindsey Graham appeared on national media to tone down praise of Trump and warn against showing weakness and removing troops from one of America's many war zones. Essentially, they are arguing that America should dictate the terms, Kim should agree, and there should be no American concessions of any value. Democrats, however, have predictably been frothing at the mouth even at the idea of peace, particularly a peace negotiated by literally Hitler himself, Donald Trump. These warmongers and psychotics have railed against even talking to Kim Jong-un, claiming that there should be no peace whatsoever with a nation that has such horrible human rights violations. As if the United
that makes
States,
a lot of fucking sense. What the fuck? Sorry, that just.
And the funny part is too is that the deal also says that Korea doesn't have to denuclearize until the U.S. does.
Right.
So it's not going to happen ever then.
So these warmongers and psychotics have railed against even talking to Kim Jong-un, claiming that there should be no peace whatsoever with a nation that has such horrible human rights violations, as if the United States has not racked up enough of those same violations on its own. These critics complain that Trump is engaging in appeasement of some kind, which seems impossible to explain to anyone using logic or who is restrained by reality. But what is actually happening within this summit? Is a true and genuine desire for peace, or is it just a cover for the next war to take shape over the next several years? And so I'm going to skip to this, and I want people to read this article. I'm gonna link it in the description, but I want to read the beginning to this section, and that's it. Let people come to their own conclusions. Was the deal mutual, or was it negotiated from a position of strength or weakness? While it may publicly appear that the recent U.S.-North Korea peace deal was a mutual desire between both parties to de-escalate and move toward peace, some analysts question whether or not that is the case and posit that the deal may have actually been made as a strategy of last resort on the part of the North Koreans. And then there's plenty of things about deals that have been pulled out of and reneged on, and essentially they go into the path of Persia, which is a really interesting concept that people should look into, and they go into all of these possible outcomes, and the conclusion is, while steps toward peace should be lauded, we must make sure these steps are actually being taken toward peace and not to another Libya model. North Korea may want to re-enter the world at large, but it must not do so if the end result will be the destruction of the country yet again. Since Kim Jong-un already has nuclear weapons and the ability to deliver them, he has significant bargaining power in any negotiation. Upon giving those weapons up, however, he will have placed North Korea in a precarious position. It may be too early to tell as of yet what will be the result of the Trump-Kim agreement, but for now, those who truly desire peace must be kept a watchful and skeptical eye open.
He doesn't have a means that will consistently hit the U.S. I really don't think they do.
They don't, but they have enough to target U.S. allies. Certainly, they have enough to target Russia.
Sure, but that whole regime has been running their mouth for a long freaking time, and like it never fucking. It could one day, but it hardly ever happens. I mean, the Kim Jong whatever dynasties, that whole family, they've been running their mouth against the U.S. for a long time. As long as I can remember, they've been threatening them.
Well, I mean, yeah, but that's less relevant than what's actually like, because it takes a while to build up enough of a force to justify going to war. You have to look like to your people like you could accomplish war, or even if they're already brainwashed, they're not going to go to war with you, especially in the days of mass communication. I mean, even North Korea has to have a semblance of it, or they just won't have any sort of civil rest. It'll all be civil unrest.
Yeah, I know.
But, I mean,
I don't think this is going to actually lead to very much.
Right. But I mean, Bilderberg's discussing like Russia. It's discussing fucking, artificial intelligence. I mean, having another ally that close to Russia, when Russia's been used as the impetus for a huge amount of fucking, Middle East wars, Far East bases built. Like, effectively, anybody who's familiar with like things like the Soviet-Afghan conflict knows that that Russia's constantly been a scapegoat for U.S. spreading imperialism over there, where there just happens to be resources and where they just happen to owe a bunch of people money. So, I mean, there's that part of it too.
Yeah.
The government is supplying the Ukraine separatists with weapons to fight against Russian allies, to fight against Russian forces.
And
it
the thing
turns
is,
out that can I go?
Yeah, sorry.
It turns out that those Ukraine forces are actually Nazis. They're white supremacists, and Obama was the one who started selling weapons to them. So I mean, I don't know what the succession with Russia is, other than that they basically, it seems like they want to get out of the world banking system.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and of course, I mean, the getting out of the dollar in general is going to be a very toxic thing. If you look at the history of the dollar is fraught with essentially forcing the dollar on foreign nations through deals that, like, if you don't accept this, you can't have the oil from your literal countries. So I mean, it's really fucking atrocious if you look at it. We're gonna fucking take your oil, we're gonna drill it, we're gonna fucking enable all of these fucking mining operations for metals and gemstones and the lithium that we'll get for our fucking hybrid batteries. All of these things happen, and then people fucking have to spend the dollar on it. Like, how atrocious is that? If people think about it for a second, the petrodollar is one of the saddest creations in history because it chains the entire world and it allows it to remain chained. It preserves the economic model that the elites have been using to drain parts of the world dry so that they can continue to build their bunkers and, enjoy a large paychecks and the ability to constantly, have it, like, basically shock resistant investments. So I mean, it's really fucked up, but like all of this stuff is still happening, and the Trump Kim summit doesn't actually change that a whole hell of a lot.
Yeah.
So I mean,
I'd rather that summit happen. Any beginning that could possibly free 25 million slaves. The less enslaved people there are in the world, the better it is. The more people talk about freedom, the more people talk about liberty. The more people we see being freed from their chains, and it's just not only good for people who love liberty, but it's also to throw it in the faces of people who would want to keep those people in chains. Like, I mean, I know people who say that I've been told that North Korea is actually like a paradise. It's a socialist paradise, and everything that we hear about it is lies. So.
Total paradise. That's why the people have to like have a picture of Kim in every friggin' classroom in the house, and you gotta like have this hysterical wailing when he died. It was so phony. And it's like, anytime someone visits there, they put on a show for visitors, and they're like, "Oh, this is great! Look how amazing we are!" And what's funny is, I understand that in the movie, the interview, like they exaggerated it a lot, but it is that type of thing where people will go visit there, and they will portray it like they will get the best, most talented children to put on a musical thing for them. They will show how smart and intelligent their kids are and stuff like that. When it's just like they only picked the best or the ones that they knew would cooperate and not speak the truth, you know. Yeah, it's just such a paradise that people are trying to run away from it across the border constantly. You know.
Well, and not to mention the fact that if you have this sort of like demagoguery, it's going to have to collapse at some point.
Yeah.
Because like there's only so much you can build it up with, and there's only so many other nations that you can piss off by saying that you're the best and that all these nations are subhuman and that, you know, mighty Korean blah blah. You know, there's only so many times and ways that you can say that before every other nation just starts laughing at you. So,
yep.
And you know, nations that laugh at you don't trade with you. You gotta either have something that they can steal in the case of the oil and the, you know, the rubies and fucking lithium and shit. Or you've got to have an attitude that's like, you know, capable of being traded with on a lower level.
Well, look at what's happening with us now. Like, the whole Trump and Trudeau thing. It's like, and now like, oh, we're gonna work together and host the World Cup or whatever it is, but yet, you know, we're gonna screw you over in trade. But yet Canada's still like, oh yeah, we're gonna work with you anyway. It's like, why? Like, if they're trying to screw us over in trade, and you're doing this whole, you know, you put a tariff on me, I'm gonna put a tariff on you. It's like, I just don't understand it. I just don't understand the choice to make friends with someone like Korea, but to like all of a sudden hate on Canada. And it's like, like trade wise, I'm talking about. I'm not talking about like, because Trudeau's an idiot. I'm not saying he's not, but
well, he's not an idiot. He knows exactly how to appeal to his base.
I guess, but he's a pushover.
Well, or he's designed to be a pushover. I mean, realistically, you need somebody like that in public theater to make it seem like the U.S. is a strong and mighty eagle that will take everything to a new height.
Yeah, I guess.
So he's playing his part pretty well. Like, if you start looking at this as a reality TV show with scripted, totally live participants, it makes sense.
You know, well, I don't know if they're going to hang on to their leadership next election because my province, they voted out the Liberals already, so maybe, so they might not have as much of a chance in the election now.
Right. Well,
although the Conservatives are ruining my country just as bad, so.
Right. Well, I mean, and if you start looking at like, because this is the real shit. Like what's happening in Bilderberg, G7, the NATO meeting, SCO, like all of these meetings are happening at the same time. Bilderberg, all of these meetings are happening at the same time that you have this Trump Kim summit. And so we're supposed to just sit by and listen to people like John Bolton talk about regime change and people like cheerleading him on with that and saying how great it would be if Iran had a dictator, you know, planted by the U.S. government instead of a dictator that was theoretically organically elected by the people, even though the elections over there are rigged just as much as the elections over here are. You know, yeah. You can't have people cheering that sort of thing on and then in the end say that you have a free mindset. And if you have people in a room cheering that on and sort of discussing and manipulating how these sorts of things are going to look in the future, and all of this is happening in the same week, it's sort of difficult to not think that this is going to be a manufactured conflict with Russia. I mean, that's a real good reason to have an ally on the border.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there, because the Bilderberg thing, it's Iran, it's Russia, it's artificial intelligence, it's a bunch of shit that like doesn't normally see the light of day, being covered all at once and very specifically. So I'm
not necessarily ready to jump on conspiracy train here, but with the Bilderberg stuff.
Well, I mean, why wouldn't you? Like, I mean, What are you saying, that you don't even think that Bilderberg is a legitimate concept as an evil force?
Okay, there is the Bilderberg meetings. Okay, they do have them. I'm not saying that they aren't evil money grabbing assholes, but are they the Illuminati? Definitely not. I mean, it's not.
Well, what is the Illuminati in your view?
Well, the Illuminati, in their sense, is this evil group of men that want to take over the world and enslave everybody. And
well, that's not what the Illuminati is, though. The Illuminati, if that's the case, would be an organization that has existed from time immemorial.
Look, the Bilderberg group and the meetings and stuff, though, are just a bunch of rich assholes trying to find a way to screw people over. I don't know about the whole thing about whether or not they have the power to control these elections or not. I don't know. But it is weird how the person that gets elected president is always visiting the Bilderberg before they get elected.
Well, but look at it, though. I mean, all of these major people in the Bilderberg meetings, they're all like from banks. They're all from big tech firms. They're all from think tanks. They're all what?
Yeah, I know all these. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Peter Thiel is there. An official from the Vatican is there. For the first time ever. It's being held in Italy so that they can have more people in Europe, which would make sense if you're trying to start a war. There are people from many banks all over the world, including the Federal Reserve Bank of Israel, I think. I'm not sure. I don't remember specifically, but there's former and current ministers of defense from countless nations, and like all of these investment firms that would fund and finance war with warmongers to boot, including the warmonger Henry Kissinger. So I don't know how these people wouldn't be in control in this sort of nefarious way, because as TruthStream Media pointed out when they made their most recent video on this, their most recent Bilderberg coverage, if you wanted to start a war, I don't know who else you would invite.
Yeah, no. I just don't know if they control everything. I know they control a lot of stuff. I know they do. But
they're not controlling the stream, and I'm not insisting that they control everything. I'm saying that they control enough.
Yeah. Yeah, but even if it wasn't some...
He's talking big party players. He's talking like the big shit. Like the things that everyone else sees. Yeah, that's what he's mentioning.
But even if the Bilderbergs didn't get together, they would still be these evil... Like, these people would still be trying to get money on their own, regardless of if they're working together or not,
Right, but they couldn't have a conversation in a room without bugs that's not monitored and not on a public connection line to see like what the strategies and secrets were of these major corporations and government officials. They wouldn't be able to meet in the underground of a hotel. They wouldn't be able to talk in person about things that they couldn't talk about anywhere else, because they'd be anywhere else. I mean, their offices could be bugged. This is how things work, yo. I mean,
I know. I think they're bad, but I just don't go quite as far as Alex Jones does. That's my.
I go further than Alex Jones because I'm not going to support. Well, I go further than Alex Jones because I'm not willing to admit that somebody's a good guy just because he's he seems to be serving my particular interests and not strictly Bilderberg's.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense for sure. Like the only time I think someone's a good person is if they don't necessarily harm anyone else. Now, if they're trying to create shit that does harm other people, like laws or things like that, I'm like, you're garbage and your idea sucks ass.
Anybody that thinks that any of these politicians aren't just puppets are idiots anyway. I mean, like the financial interest that these people have, like, supersedes everything, right? I mean,
well, the financial, the territorial, the power interests in general. I mean, realistically, there's plenty at play here, because the money, like, it's not money. It's a monopoly currency that they use to shackle people to debt. And the reason that they care about these things isn't making more of it. It's making sure that it operates the way they want it to. It's more of a tweaking of an engine than driving a car. So I mean, there's that part of it too. It's not money that they care about. It's the fact that the dollar can be used to trick people into supporting their system, no matter who they vote for.
Yeah.
And that's like people think that as soon as we get somebody who isn't Trump, things are going to improve. Well, I mean, prove it, dude. Because the fact is that Trump does the exact same stuff Hillary would have done. And, Hillary would have done the exact same stuff Bush did and Obama did, because they all serve the same fundamental people. They're all friends. They all remark on how they're friends. They all remark on how, they still love each other after insulting each other repeatedly over the campaign trail, because they know what bullshit it is. They're not invested. They're invested in what the result is.
Didn't Obama do worse for the country than Trump is right now?
Obama did a fuck ton worse for the country than Trump's doing. Trump's actually trying to undo a lot of it, but at the same time, Trump still sucks ass too.
No, he's not. I mean, it's the left-right march, man. The boot's gonna march. Like, the elites are gonna increase their power marginally every time the boots march forward further. Like, people aren't any freer now. And there's still there's still drone strikes being made in record numbers, like record even over Obama's numbers. There's still invasions of foreign countries. There's still bombings of Syria, even though he said stay out of Syria repeatedly. Trump isn't doing better than Obama. He's just better at hiding it under a guise of draining the swamp. Because realistically speaking, he's not drained anything. He's not stopped anything that Obama had going. In any meaningful respect, any respect that other nations will give a shit about. He's done a few things that seem counter to Obama, only to later then, sort of double back. The take the guns first,
whole gun
later.
Yeah, the whole gun thing too, with the ban on the bump stock, that whole thing. Yeah, that was more of a liberal tactic than it was, someone like he was saying that he wants people to have their guns and things like that.
But think about it rhetorically speaking, because if he starts to say things like that and then he's doubling back immediately, then he can basically get away with whatever he wants as long as he's willing to say the opposite first.
Well, look at Gitmo, where every politician that goes out there is like, yeah, we're closing it down, just like Obama did, right? Mm-hmm. Like, we're closing it down. No, it didn't happen.
And Trump is building a border wall with Mexico, just like Obama promised to start doing and started doing, and then eventually, slowed down on because Trump was coming in and he could just divert all the attention to that. I mean, all these presidents believe fundamentally the same thing. Look at their campaigns.
Yeah. They pretty much are like, we're going to give you this, we're going to be awesome, and stuff is cool.
And Mexico will pay for it.
Yeah, exactly. Mexico's going to pay for it, man. How are we going to force them to pay for it? Are we going to initiate force upon them? Like, hey, pay us or we're going to kill you? I think that's the only way we can make them pay us.
Well, Trump is a big fan of tariffs.
True. He is a big fan of tariffs, but then they won't trade with us anymore. They'll just keep
look at look at De Niro being all trendy with the fuck Trump bullshit now too, right?
Yeah.
Like, that was so dumb. Oh my god. Because it's like Trump has these grudges from back before he was president, and he still holds them even now after being president. So it's just funny.
Well, especially with that picture of Obama giving him a medal. So
yeah,
it's really transparent that this is a show. And if you start to look at this as a show and realize that these people are actors playing parts, you'll realize why it looks so much like theater, because it's theater.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean,
they took Shakespeare's "Life is a Play" thing quite literally, and they're like, "Yeah, okay, cool. We'll make everything a play."
Well, I just saw that Wizard of Cause is running.
Goddamn Blizzard people.
I just saw that Wizard of Cause is running for state office or whatever, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm sure all the stuff you said on your YouTube channel before, associating with Jeff Holiday and stuff, when people have spread these rumors about Jeff and everything, I'm sure that's going to really help your political campaign.
Well, but he doesn't need it to help his political campaign. He just needs enough, he needs enough support. He doesn't need, because with any political campaign, all you need to do is satisfy your base and then pit them against their opponents. It's
Yeah,
not a
no, but
game of you versus the other guy. It's a game of pitting your guys versus your opponent's guys. It's using them as pawns. That's all politics is.
I know, but if you're a state representative or a local, whatever, like you hold a seat in the state legislature, it's like you're not going to be able to go on YouTube and continue your YouTube career. There's no way they'd let you keep doing it. I mean,
well, there's a possibility. Trump still has a Twitter, so
I guess. But yeah, he decided to go from independent to Libertarian Party now.
Well, it's gonna have to compete with the other cucks there because the Libertarian Party sucks. Like really,
a lot of the really shit people in that party. Like, there's no one really saying. Oh, besides like Ron Paul, he was like the last good one, like 08. That's about it. And he got shut down so fast by other people, and I was like, oh, that's my nigga right there. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Back when I voted, it was like, what? Come on.
And and the thing about the Libertarian Party is that it has the appeal of liberty, but most people there don't actually care about liberty.
Yeah. No, they give zero fucks. And like, I actually have an idea about liberty and like evils and how the state works. It's like, well, my kind of weirdness, of course. It's like, with you, in order to have the full amount of liberty, you have to allow the evils. And to try to restrict any evil, you also have to restrict good. And restricting good is also restricting liberty. So you can't have liberty if you restrict anything. That's my thing. You completely be you.
I disagree because, like, I think that like if for instance somebody's coming into my house and assaulting people that I care about, and I tie them up, I'm restraining them entirely, but I'm preventing evil and not good.
Well, that's a defense thing too. That's not necessarily restriction. What I mean by restriction, I mean by trying to make legislation and restrict.
So you mean initiation of restriction?
Yeah, initiation of restriction. Like what you're talking about, completely self-defense. That's a different kind of restriction. From what I mean to say, of course.
Right.
But yeah,
right.
Like I get your point. Your point's 100% good.
Well, I just don't like because I got blocked on Facebook not too long ago by somebody who wanted to make meaningless distinctions between coercion and violence and self-defense.
Coercion is violence. You have to use violence in order to get coercion, like end of story.
Well, and you have to use coercion and or violence to defend yourself effectively from a violent threat. So I see zero problem with coercion as long as it's not happening upon initiation. So, but this guy didn't like that, and he kept on lying about me. But that's an entirely different story. That's
like
the day.
He described his previous political involvement, like running campaigns and stuff, as like a DNC friendly campaign manager or something like that. And I'm like, oh boy. So anybody that was shouting that, oh, Wizard Cost is an alt-righter or blah, 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 any of this bullshit can stop that now.
Of course, to be completely straight with you, I have no idea who Wizard of Cause is.
Okay. He streams a lot with Jeff Holiday. They have a thing called the YouTube Saints or whatever. He was pretty popular for a while there on YouTube, but then like when the whole Jeff Holiday thing started, I think he'd lost his popularity big time.
Yeah, and I don't really pay attention to this stuff. Who's Jeff Holiday?
Oh my god. Well,
is he looks like an SJW from his Twitter here.
He's definitely. I wouldn't call him an SJW. I wouldn't go.
Yeah, he kind of balances the line between SJW and he tries to be as centrist as possible, but he's more of an SJW than most centrists are.
He went on Dr.
I guess is how I see it.
There's this lady that's promoting fermented cabbage juice and stuff, and getting people to drink it and saying that it cures the gay and cures cancer and stuff. So he went on Dr. Phil to argue with this woman.
Who, Jeff Holiday?
Yeah.
Is he an expert in any of that?
He debunks pseudoscience all the time.
Oh, so he's like Thunderfoot.
Better. Thunderfoot is annoying as fuck, and his voice is just grating.
Well, yes, but he's also, usually accurate, so.
Well, Thunderfoot's actually a scientist. Jeff isn't.
So Jeff isn't like an expert in any meaningful sense. He just like what? He laughs at things.
No, he debunks them and gets angry because people are getting hurt from this cabbage shit that they're doing.
So he uses layman. Jeff Holiday uses layman science, where Thunderfoot uses real science.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Well, anyway. I don't want to talk too much shit because I don't know who this is and I've never spoken to him. But you know, like, I don't. To me, if you can't establish some sort of credentials, you better get some second opinion when you're talking about this kind of stuff.
He was
Yeah,
a member.
exactly.
He was a member of the alleged doxing Discord server that was.
Oh well, okay, yeah. Was that Kraut's thing?
Yeah, Jeff wasn't really participating as far as I can tell, but he was definitely in the thing.
Okay. Well, that whole thing was a mess. I did see some of that.
I know, but Jeff is currently losing like 2,000 subscribers a day, or he was anyway.
For doing what?
So for being, he lied about some stuff and like. I don't know. He's in the doxing server and stuff like that. It was this guy named Coach Red Pill, and there was stuff that involved this dude, and it was just like.
Yeah, well,
he's better now. He's not losing like he was, but he was like dropping subs like crazy.
Yeah, well, I see, and this is why I don't pay attention to stuff like that, because like sort of like neutral drama doesn't really appeal to me. Like it, you know, there's this thing like fucking Fifth Column News, apparent war crimes in Gaza from Israel. And I would rather focus on something like that, where Israeli forces repeated use of lethal force in the Gaza Strip since March 30th, 2018 against Palestinian demonstrators who pose no immediate threat to life may amount to war crimes, Human Rights Watch said today. Israeli forces have killed more than 100 protesters in Gaza and wounded thousands with live ammunition. The United Nations General Assembly should support a resolution that calls for exploring measures to guarantee the protection of Palestinians in Gaza, and the U.S. inquiry mandated to investigate all violations and abuses should identify Israeli officials responsible for issuing unlawful open fire orders. The killings also highlight a need for an international criminal court to open formal investigation into the situation in Palestine. Third countries should impose targeted sanctions against officials responsible for ongoing serious human rights violations. And they detail some of those human rights violations. So I like that to me, that's the sort of thing that these political campaigns, like any political campaigns, distract from. They distract from what's actually going on.
But that stuff in Israel, like, it's been going on forever.
And I mean, since like, the 60s, maybe.
Like, it's not anything new, but at the same time, I don't get why it's the other country's problem.
What other country?
Any.
Okay, then you don't know how the hegemony works, or?
But I'm just saying that, like, I don't know. So, certain countries need to learn how to resolve some of their own conflicts a bit better. That's all I'm saying.
Palestine has a tiny military, and they can't resolve their own conflicts, and they're constantly targeted by Israel, who is the ally of countless Western nations. I'm not exactly sure why other countries shouldn't jump in when Israel's a regional foothold for resources anyway, and strategic positioning near Russia.
I don't know. It's just, I just think I'm just wondering why like more Middle Eastern countries around the area are trying to help them out more, rather than like people like the U.S. having to do it. I'm just wondering, like, you know what I mean? There's so many countries around there that could help them out a bit more, and it's just like I don't know.
Yeah, but Israel's not an ally in the region. Israel, the only ally, the closest they have to any ally in that region is Saudi Arabia and the European countries. Realistically speaking, Israel is pretty hated, and for not unvalid reasons.
No, I know. But the Israel-Palestine thing, besides that, it's really difficult because it's such a volatile thing, you know. And I don't think that Israel's innocent. I'm not saying that at all. They're definitely not. I mean, but you know, if you believe the Bible, like the Palestine and Israel, the fight for the dome and that whole
I don't.
you know, that whole area and shit like that has been going on forever. I mean, it's not.
I don't believe the Bible, but like reasonably, I can tell that it's been going on there for a while. Like history says that anyway. That doesn't mean that one action or another is right. It doesn't mean that opening fire on unarmed civilians is fine just because it's been going on for a while.
It's not fine, but articles like the one you were just reading are acting like it's something new, and it's really not.
No, it's not acting like that at all. It's reporting on something because it's reportable.
I'm just saying. When most people
Yeah,
talk
I'd
about
rather.
they're
Yeah, I'd rather hear about some shit going down than not. You know, like even if it's new or not, like I still like to know if it's still fucking happening.
Like we're supposed to be updated on sports and video games and movies and shit, but not Israel continuing to violate human rights. That seems dumb.
Yeah, I think we should hear everything. If it's still continuing and we thought it was, you know, even if it's nothing new, like, we got a new fucking Call of Duty coming out. That's nothing new. But, you know, I still want to hear about it so I know not to buy that shit.
Nuke the whole Middle East and be done with it at the end. I'm being facetious, obviously, but it's just
what. I mean, what hasn't been going on for a while though? What shouldn't be news?
But no matter what they try
on.
and do, but no matter what they try and do to intervene over there, no matter what peace accords they might get, they never last, and it's frustrating because it's like,
right.
Well, what else are we to do, you know, about the situation? I mean,
and I agree with that, which is why my solution isn't quote peace accords, but you know, fucking a full-on intervention in terms of anarchy versus statism.
But it seems like the only way for that to happen would be like a world war almost. I mean,
a world war is coming.
Let it be.
I mean, I don't. There's not a thing that we can do about the coming blood. There's the elites want a cold population, and they're gonna get a war. It's gonna be bloody. They're gonna profit a shit ton from it, and there's gonna be a lot of civilians that die. It's gonna happen.
Oh yeah.
So
it's
I mean,
soon,
the
too.
fact that it's like we should exploit as much of that for anarchist momentum as possible. Like at least the anarchists here, which I don't think you are one, but like that's my goal. That's my solution. I want to get the state out of there. The state should never have come in there and intervened and made Israel anyway, because they shouldn't be in the business of legislating religiosity. Oh, they're owed a homeland? Okay, sure, maybe. But they should get it for themselves if they want it, instead of, you know, getting the U.S. to bankroll the whole deal. But anyway, we have a... Go ahead.
Well, Jerusalem, as an example, has been going back and forth between, like, Christian leaders and Muslim leaders and Christian leaders and Muslim... Like, it's... it's this back and forth tug-of-war that seemingly... Like, as far as you're saying about taking the land back for themselves, well, they've tried over and over again, and it just goes back and forth, and nothing ever seems to get resolved, and it's just frustrating because it's like, I don't know what. Well, the people who are involved in it don't even know what the solutions are. So I mean, it's.
Well, I know what the solution is. It's anarchy. But anyway, let's get Finian to introduce himself, tell people where they can find him, and give his take on anything that's been discussed so far, because he's been paying attention in chat.
Alrighty.
Hey guys. Yeah, I am mainly on Steemit these days. My account over there is Finian. It's F as in Frank, INNIAN. And I also have business accounts on Twitter and Facebook and stuff as Liberty Pro PI. I'm a private investigator and residential security expert. I wanted to mention one thing about Israel just before we possibly moved on. They were founded by using terrorism. They were using actual terrorism against the British that were there, and that's actually the foundation of how they originally got their so-called nation. So that shouldn't be forgotten, basically. It should never have happened, and the Brits are really good at divide and conquer, and I'm sure that was a very large motivator that they had to do what they did.
Okay, and in terms of Bilderberg, I think we may have discussed this before, but just for this broadcast, give people your take.
I might have missed that earlier. I wasn't sure if I didn't hear you guys talking about it. Just like the Bilderberg group, just in general, or
Yeah.
what?
Yeah, the Bilderberg meetings. Do you think that they have as much influence as me, the conspiracy theorist asshole over here, thinks they do?
They they are the useful idiots of the actual oligarchs that are in charge. That's the way I would explain it. So they get their orders come down from high pretty much, and then they have these meetings and basically sit around and say, okay, this is your job and this is what you're going to do and that kind of stuff.
So you would argue Kissinger is one of the useful idiots?
Yeah, it's hard to say, like what you were just suggesting. A few of the ones like the Rockefellers and stuff that we know of are probably at the top, but those types of people would never be officially identified, and we don't really ever know who they are. It's like kind of like the
Right.
Federal Reserve. Like we'll never, apparently we'll never know who actually owns it.
There's a public list of attendees, though. I mean, have you
Yep.
read through that yet?
I've not
So I
seen
mean,
the actual
there's
list,
Peter.
but yes.
Okay, well, let me post this in the sidebar in the chat here, so you can
I
give it a look
agree.
over.
Yeah, I agree that they think they're in charge, but there's people that
it's less
still
that
fight
they're in
against them,
charge.
basically.
It's less that they're in charge, in my opinion, and more that they're one of the centers of power. I mean, the power is all centralized, but it has like several key branches, and there's no one person in control of everything.
Right, and I would agree that the Bilderberg group and the people that are associated with it are, they'd be directly related to like the Rothschilds and the so-called Western banking families, which are,
Right.
of course, the actual oligarchs that are in charge.
Well, yeah, and if you, because I sent the list, if you look at it, there are people on here like Peter Thiel, PayPal guy. There are people here like Jared Cohen, the founder and CEO of Jigsaw at Alphabet, which is like an information protection system that the government's going to use to manufacture wars effectively, and Google's gotten a huge amount of money from the CIA, and they've manufactured resources so that the entire world can be monitored effectively from space. I mean, Google Earth, there's a version of that the elites have access to that would make us drool, but it would also be very intrusive for everybody to have access to it. As intrusive as it is for the elites to have access to it, but certainly, on a broader scale. So I mean, there's plenty of people, like in terms of the corporations that are represented by them. There was a chart that came out a while back for the Bilderberg group, and I can't really pull it up right now, but this chart showed the Bilderberg group's core representatives and how they're all affiliated with every major non-governmental organization, corporation, political party, campaign, think tank, university, everything. And to say that these representatives are all, quote, useful idiots when some of them are very powerful, to me, I don't know, that seems like a way too sweeping a generalization.
Yeah, they're like lieutenants. Yeah. A better word than useful idiot, I guess.
Lieutenants and admirals. I mean, the generals aren't going to attend. They're going to get the debrief elsewhere. Like the G7 summit was happening at the same time, So, I mean, the G7 summit, which is this conference between, oh man, let me look it up, but specifically, plenty of Western powers are affiliated directly with it, and the G7 countries this year, a group of 7. Let me look this up. It's called the Group of 7, and the countries affected are Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, United Kingdom, United States, and EU. So, I mean, all of these countries, like especially the EU, which has plenty of member countries, all getting together on the same day that Bilderberg does, and with similar missions. Yeah, it seems really obvious to me that something very nefarious is going on, and that we get we get a lot of this on the surface, and they won't tell us what happens underneath, because effectively it's an unmonitored meeting off the record and behind closed doors. So
Yeah.
I mean, we'll never really know what the breadth of it is what I'm saying. But like, I would, since I'm a pessimist, I would like definitely, I would assume that it would have a lot more power than just a bunch of useful idiots.
Yeah.
I'll put it a different way too. Let's say that there was going to be a false flag to start another world war. I would gather that 99% of the people in that Bilderberg meeting wouldn't know about it. It would be compartmentalized. That's all.
But they would discuss responses and strategies, but they wouldn't know about the actual thing being planned.
Oh no, because they want as much authenticity as they can possibly manufacture.
Well, and compartmentalization means that you have less loose ends to tie up if you ever need to burn an op.
Yeah, exactly.
So I mean,
Yes.
like, and then they just need to tell us like a decade or so later, so that nobody can do anything about it, and all the people involved are dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, 50 or 60 years later. Well, the attack on the USS Liberty is another good example to roll back into what we were talking about earlier. Nobody talks about it. A blatant attack to try to draw us in on Israel's side against Egypt, and all the facts are out there, and nobody gives a damn. Nobody cares.
Why don't you go into that then? While we're talking about Israel and, you know, seeming like anti-Semites, we might as go whole hog here.
Yeah. I think the ship was there monitoring the conflict between the two nations, and they were obviously clearly identified as a U.S. ship, and they got buzzed by Israeli jets multiple times, so close that like they were waving at the pilots. Lots of radio traffic going back and forth, so everybody definitely knew who each side was. And then, yeah, all of a sudden the Israelis started bombarding them. They did everything they could. I forget the exact time range, but it was like multiple hours they tried to sink the ship. And the only reason why they did not succeed is some badass telecom guy. He rigged up a jerry-rigged antenna and sent out a Morse code SOS on some short band radio or some shit, and a U.S. ship near them actually just by chance heard it and came to their rescue. And then the president at the time wanted to cover it up. For the sake of keeping peace with Israel, he demanded everybody just shut up, basically, and act like it never happened.
Right. And people did, I'm assuming, for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, nobody heard about it. I didn't even know about the USS Liberty till probably, 10 years ago? I mean, I didn't know about it until I was an adult. I don't know what year exactly, but yeah, it didn't come out until a very long later after it actually happened.
Well, let me look up something more specific on it, just to get the details like very clear and concise. But you know, from what it sounds like, it was a very, you know, Gulf of Tonkin-y kind of Code Purple incident.
Yeah, the Israelis were deliberately trying to sink it, and then once it was sunk, they were going to blame it on the Egyptians to draw the U.S. into the war on their side. I mean, that's like hands down. That's basically the historians that have looked into it and that are honest about it. That's what they believe was the objective of Israel and the plan.
Okay, so this is what the Wikipedia article says. I'm just going to read the first 3 paragraphs here. The USS Liberty incident was an attack on a U.S. Navy technical research ship, USS Liberty, by Israeli Air Force jet fighter aircraft and Israeli Navy motor torpedo boats on the 8th of June, 1967, during the Six-Day War. The combined air and sea attack killed 34 crew members, naval officers, seamen, 2 Marines, and 1 civilian, wounded 171 crew members, and severely damaged the ship. At the time, the ship was in international waters north of the Sinai Peninsula, about 25.5 NMI, 29.3 miles, 47.2 kilometers northwest from the Egyptian. I think that's nautical miles, actually. I should have just read it that way. Northwest from the Egyptian city of Arish. Israel apologized for the attack, saying that the USS Liberty had been attacked in error after being mistaken for an Egyptian ship. Both the Israeli and U.S. governments conducted inquiries and issued reports that conducted the attack was a mistake due to Israeli confusion about the ship's identity. Though others, including survivors of the attack, have rejected these conclusions and maintain the attack was deliberate. In May 1968, the Israeli government paid the U.S. $3.32 million, equivalent to $23.4 million in 2017, to the U.S. government in compensation to the families of the 34 men killed in the attack. In March 1969, Israel paid a further $3.57 million, $23.8 million in 2017. To the men who had been wounded. In December 1980, it agreed to pay $6 million, $17.8 million in 2017 as the final settlement for material damage to Liberty itself, plus 13 years of interest. Fucking hell. Yeah.
Yeah. Another thing to keep in mind about that incident is there are survivors still alive, and you can go out there and get their stories about it. Things like the people that were in the water were being machine gunned by the Israelis. And the Israelis acted like they didn't know that it was Americans. Give me a fucking break. It's impossible.
Yep.
Well, and beyond that, like, there's also the idea that that if this was, an Egyptian ship, so what? I mean, they were just sitting there. Were communications that bad back then that you could justify a bullshit story like this?
No, they weren't, and the ship was clearly identified, but I forget the details exactly of the conflict, but Egypt and Israel at the time were actually, quote unquote, at war. So I'm sure that's why they said that. They're like, oh, we thought they were Egyptians. No, there's no way they knew that. There's no way that they thought that that was the case. They had to come up with some excuse for their black op basically failing and not working, because they legitimately wanted to sink the ship and kill all survivors. And like I said, that one telecom guy was just a badass, and he got a message out, because that was another thing that was happening, is the Israelis were jamming them on purpose. I mean, that's like documented. The survivors know for a fact that they were being jammed. So, why would they do that if it was an Egyptian ship seeking, basically an SOS, sending out an SOS looking for help? None of it makes sense unless it happened the way people think it happened, and it was, a false flag to try to draw us into a larger war.
Well, also, I mean, there's the additional thing of, like, if it was an SOS, then that loosely qualifies as a war crime.
Well, like I said earlier, Israel was founded on terrorism. I mean, they were like using bombs and assassination and everything to get the Brits basically to get out, to give them their property, their territory, as they called it at the time.
Right, and now they'll just shoot peaceful protesters dead.
Yeah.
You reminded me, actually. Yeah, I heard you say that earlier, and I wanted to bring something else up about that. Right now, the Israelis use 22 long rifle, the actual bullet. They use 22 long rifles to counter protest Palestinians, and they think that that's justified. So if you just have a rock, or you don't even have a rock in your hand, the Israelis will shoot you in the leg with a 22 long rifle bullet, and to them that's justified and it's fair.
Well,
And
the thing
that's
about
ongoing
22s
today.
too. Yeah, the thing about 22s as well is that they'll bounce around your body, so it's like they don't really exit too well.
Anyway, I
That's
got
kinda
to
fucked.
get down for now, but thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
All right, be well.
Yep, talk to you later.
Yeah, it's not like our femoral arteries in our leg or anything either. No big deal.
Well, and a lot of because when it happens over there, and when it happens to, because if one American was killed by the Israeli government and they could verify that, there would be outrage. I mean,
Yep.
if an American's killed by an American, the American government, that there's zero outrage. But if it happened from somebody else, and that, like an American citizen was killed, then there would be outrage, and legitimately so. But the fact that Palestine is such a small nation with such a small support base there to begin with, and the fact that the rest of the world's support of Palestine ends pretty much at making tweets about it, that all sort of prevents a lot of things from happening that otherwise would. And so it's sort of like when you're a minority of a minority, you can't expect help on a global scale, like even if the catastrophe that you've been a victim to is so severe.
Well, I also don't haven't American activists actually been killed? I'm trying to look up Rachel Corrie right now because I was pretty sure she was an American citizen, and yeah, she got ran over by a damn bulldozer.
Well, likely.
So I mean, yeah, she is, yeah, American peace activist. So Americans have been killed, like the USS Liberty happened, and
no, what I'm saying is like an American on American soil.
Oh yeah.
Like the fact that it happens over there is all fine. And, usually people are just like, well, you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes when an activist dies. Because people don't give a shit. They're not emotionally invested in the truth.
Yeah, it's not their kids being blown to pieces or their house being bombed, so they don't care.
Right. And if it was their kids being blown to pieces or their house being bombed, realistically, they wouldn't have a whole lot of ways to defend themselves because of all the modest reform that's happened. So, like, that's a point I make with one of my shirts, is that the state already has your guns. They've already disabled your weapons. They've already turned you into a slave. And they've forced this on the people because essentially they can, and that they have to if they want to maintain their regime. So
true. I mean, like, if you look at it, like, it's pretty much it goes down to being let's take down the scale a little bit, right? Me, I like to look out for all people. I don't like anyone really getting the cap, but it's understandable that some people do, and there's nothing I can do about it. But the thing is, like, when you see human atrocities or like crimes against humanity, it's pretty fucked up that you're not like, oh, I'm just going to tweet about it and trying to do something. Well, you can do something. If you think that your country, say America, is the strongest fucking country in the world, and you think that you can affect another thing, you can try to make sure that that doesn't happen, but you also have to realize that you're going to be initiating force, and you're also going to be someone else's fucking terrorist, Like, nothing that you do for, like, okay, and what I mean by break it down to a smaller level is like your neighbors, right? Let's say if you're in a small community or like a neighborhood or something, and one of your neighbors gets shot up, or someone is like fucking with them hard, you're gonna want to defend them, and you're gonna want to say, like, yeah, I support them, but you supporting them isn't just virtue signaling by like posting on your social media site, hey, yeah, my neighbor, I stand with my neighbor, although he's getting fucked. Like, you can do something about it if you really want to. There's more than helping people than just saying, yeah, just spreading the word. Like, there's a point where it becomes, okay, when the gay rights were really having a hard time back in when I was in high school anyway. Well, they were having a hard time for a lot of the time. These days, they pretty much don't, but they like to bitch about things. But back when they were having a really hard time, I was out there, helping them and shit, spreading awareness and all that good stuff. But there was a point in time where I was like, okay, we can only spread awareness so far. We actually need to act now. Awareness does jack all for shit. It's like, cool, we're all aware, and no one does anything if they're aware. They need to act in order to change something. And that's pretty much where I try to come from. And I think that's where you're coming from too, Jeremiah, is like, you need to act in order to change stuff.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and, well, and you need to not keyboard warrior. Like, prime example, this fucking cunt just showed up at 4:31 p.m. and says, like, there's this story, cop found guilty after shocking video showed him choking a handcuffed man. And so this cop was choking this handcuffed man who had no ability to defend himself at all, nothing. And the video proves it. And he was applying pressure to his blood vessels. He was definitely trying to abuse this person, abuse his authority, etc. blah. And this fucking cunt comes on and says, so what? Look at the guy. He probably deserved it. And they've got their Trump icon here. I mean, if this isn't a troll, which I doubt it is, like, holy shit, this Trump supporter here, like talking about a free pro-Trump flag that people can get in his profile picture, that he got this free pro-Trump flag. Well, congratulations, you're supporting tyranny. I mean, get out from behind your keyboard and we'll talk.
Yeah, essentially. And it's like I'm behind my keyboard a lot too. To be honest, to be completely fair, I'm a partial keyboard warrior myself, but at the same time, I'm willing to try to make a difference.
Would you say the same stuff? And I made this post on Facebook a short while ago. Would you say the same stuff in real life?
Yeah, I would definitely say the same shit in real life, dude. I have zero.
You're not a keyboard warrior. These people,
okay.
these people are definitely keyboard warriors. A keyboard warrior is like an armchair warrior. It's somebody that's willing to say something from the sidelines that they would never say if they were actually there.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
Let me dare say too that I think some of the guests lately have been a little bit trolly that way. So like some of these guys that come on and they're not using their real names, and it just seems like they're bullshitting, you know? Like it's not just a keyboard warrior type thing. They're like purposely trying to sabotage stuff. And yeah,
and I have to be able to withstand that sort of thing. Like I'm willing to have any sort of troll on here because realistically, first off, it makes the discussion seem more interesting. And second off, they bring their audience to watch the anarchist fail, and then the anarchist doesn't fail.
Yep.
Yeah,
it's entertaining for sure.
I mean, I have no problem. Like, I'm a troll for Jesus. Just take a look at my goddamn timeline. You'll see that I say the worst shit ever. But I also say that in real life. Like, I don't fuck around with you guys. Like, I have no problem with you guys knowing my real name. You guys already do. On the first podcast I was on, it was even mentioned. Like, I'm not afraid to have my shit out there. But at the same time, it's like, if you're going to say one thing online, why not say it out loud too? If you're exercising your free speech online, you can exercise it in person. And it's even better if you do it in person.
It's the consistency thing. So like you have to be consistent with your values, and you also have to be consistent with your actions and words. So I say those two things because of a clarification. Even heroes sometimes have to wear a mask. So earlier I was talking about people not using their real names. I don't mind people using fake names or hiding their identity. Yeah. As long as they're consistent and they're on the right side, that's all that matters.
Yeah, right. I mean, like, I try to hide myself a little bit. Like, I'm pretty sure someone can smear me in, like, 2 seconds, and I'd be, like, one of the evilest people they look at for some reason, you know? Like, someone's going to hate me. Like, I get hated all the time on. But at the same time, like, I don't care about myself personally like I used to. So, like, if you want to try to smear me, cool, try to smear me. I give 0 fucks. You have 0 power over me because I do not decide to give you that power. And 2, I'm actually trying to change something, even with my shenanigans that I'm doing, all craziness, talking out my ass a lot. But at the same time, I feel like I can actually achieve something with what I do.
Well, because the point is to have strong enough views and like a strong enough foundation for those views that they can stand up to assault.
Oh yeah, I can stand up to assault all damn day, dude. However, sometimes when I get bombarded by like 30 people, it's a hard time. I had an abortion discussion, and that kind of fucked me because it was only like me versus like 10 people, and I was like, what the fuck? But that was a hard time.
Where was that?
That was on the Twitter machine.
Oh, well, hey.
It was like a couple months ago.
Tag me in the future if you need some backup.
Word.
Yeah, because I've been well known to come into a thread and sort shit out.
Yeah, I do the same thing too. But yeah, like I get the whole like trying to be hidden. I get that. Like it's understandable. Like I'm all for someone getting all pissy with me and like saying like I haven't gotten any death threats yet, but I can't wait until I do because then I'm like, bitch, bring it, please kill me. If you're really serious about that, let's go. But the thing is, most people who do those death threats are just giant fucking pussies. If someone's actually going to kill you, they're not going to fucking let you know. Like,
well,
who the fuck in the right mind? Yeah, if they do, they're going to be like, hey, guess what? Something's coming your way. They're going to be very fucking cryptic about it. And you're like, oh, okay. Like, there's a whole strategy to it.
At your door already when they send you the message.
Yeah, exactly. Like, people who are actually out to kill you, like death threats, I don't take death threats seriously at all. I wouldn't for most people, because most people who send them are completely full of shit. Like if they see you on the side of the road, they might try to attack you or some shit like that. But that's about as far as those motherfuckers are gonna go. They're fucking pussies.
Well, right, and I've had countless death threats, and I'm still here.
Yeah.
Because
So,
I've
like,
been
the
on,
whole-
I've been at the Twitter game for like close to a decade now.
Oh wow, dude. Yeah, I quit Twitter and Facebook for a while. I just popped on Twitter like a few months ago. And so
Yeah, for business reasons, I couldn't help it. I had to get back on those two sites.
yeah, I just got really sad and lonely, and so I was like, I wonder if I can just fuck with people on Twitter. I see a lot of shit like that on YouTube, so I'm just gonna fuck with people. And then I slowly like started to realize like, hey, if the libs can push their stupid bullshit, I can push my stupid bullshit, and I like my stupid bullshit a lot more. So guess what? Ancapistan, motherfucker. Appreciate.
Well, yeah, and for me,
But-
you know, pushing the idea that maybe people aren't real.
Yeah.
It's always fun to start from that basis because essentially people got so many preconceived notions that even like the idea that reality may not look the way it seems to look to them is enough to trigger them off their horse.
Oh yeah, dude, definitely. You tell someone that they're fucking, you know, that they're eating maggots versus rice, they're gonna flip their shit.
Right. Yeah.
Or plastic. You guys have heard
Yeah.
about the rice coming out of China these days. It's made like they add some plastic to the bag just to make
Oh,
that
shit.
little extra money.
You
Have
know
you guys
that margarine is
so they
also
add
plastic
plastic
too?
powder?
Say again?
They add plastic powder?
Yeah, they're making rice out of plastic and they're adding it to the bags of rice to like basically increase their profit. Recycled plastic.
Jeez.
I heard this one
I
thing
hope
that
it's-
like margarine is like
Yeah.
one ingredient away from plastic itself too.
Hey,
It can
I think
Jeremy,
it's margarine. So, I don't know.
Jeremy Stubbs in the chat's asking questions about North Korea. Have you guys discussed North Korea at all tonight? Maybe I missed it.
Yeah, we
but
have, but we can discuss it again if necessary.
yeah.
He's asking because earlier on Facebook I talked about or posted about the denuclearization. There's a tongue twister for you. Basically, this whole deal with Trump and Kim. There's lots of conspiracy theories behind it. One of them, my going theory actually is he basically got told by either one or both sides, like, look, either you stop what you're doing or we're going to destroy you. You know, basically the West said that, and also China.
Oh yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, the train ride that he took to China is also a key clue in the background to it. So the theory behind that is China summoned him, and I've always said all along that North Korea is just a pawn of the Chinese, always has been.
Oh yeah,
So
definitely. No, you know that by the Korean War in general. When that fucking started in the first place, South Korea has pushed North Korea up, and North Korea was ended up going into China. China didn't want a fucking thing to do with Korea at all. They didn't even give a shit. They just didn't want their shit getting trampled on, so they pushed back and they got on North Korea's side and just pushed the South back, and so they boom had a denuclearization wall. That or the demilitarized zone. That's why you
yeah,
have
like
that there. Anyway,
the United States forces that were there at the time, they would not have stopped where they did if it wasn't for the Chinese, of course.
Oh no, they would have fucking wiped out North Korea. North Korea would have been gone. It would just been one giant South Korea, or just Korea, you know. But that was the thing, and so China has been since then has kind of been on North Korea's side, not really like on their side, but more like, hey motherfuckers, we bailed your ass out. Listen to us, or we're gonna wreck your shit. And I'm pretty sure that's what happened. Like, hey, guess what? Because China wasn't even happy about North Korea saying they can reach the U.S. China was like, motherfuckers, we don't approve of that. And so, like, I can totally see them with the U.S. with Trump being like, niggas, you back up now, or we're gonna shoot you down. Like, it's totally understandable why that would be a working thing, and especially because like the big dictators of China and North Korea, the communist shitholes, they have to work together in order to ensure that North Korea is still a country. Otherwise, it's going to be wiped off. Like, China doesn't really care. They've helped a little bit with food aid and everything like that for a while in North Korea, only because they know that North Korea can be a strategic point at some time in the future. Maybe that strategic point is right now. Maybe we're watching it play out right now. What's going to happen? You know, because like we're dealing with one giant ass world power, the U.S., and then another giant world power, China, over this tiny little, you know, baby throwing a fit, North Korea. And
well,
so
you'll
we're like,
notice
okay,
that Russia was brought up. So was Iran and Saudi Arabia at the Bilderberg meeting, but
yeah,
like North Korea didn't wasn't on the agenda.
Nah.
Yeah, well, that was the other thing that I think I mentioned probably on Facebook, but North Korea, in my opinion, is being quote unquote cleaned up to give room and leeway in Iran. So they need to fix this problem over here so they have the ability to focus on this other problem over here, and the other problem is Iran. And China has only to gain from this. So what they're doing is they're going to reunify the Koreas, and then basically China is going to be in charge of both of them. There's just no way around it. That's what's going to happen economically, at least. And China has already announced that by 2021, I believe it is, they plan to reunify with Taiwan. So again, it's just on the conspiracy level, but strategically speaking, maybe we get, I hate saying we, damn it, the West wants peace in the Koreas. And what is China and North Korea getting in exchange for that? Well, they're probably getting something for it. And my conspiracy theory tinfoil hat wearing head believes it's Taiwan. Because I don't think that we could even honor that defensive pact that the government has with them. And more than likely, China is going to take it back. And when they do take it back, the West is just going to, turn around and turn a blind eye to it and ignore it at this point.
Oh, yeah,
Well,
definitely.
and I don't want to, flagellate any dead equines, but let me just read this press release for the Bilderberg meeting. The 66th Bilderberg meeting to take place from 7 to 10 June 2018 in Turin, Italy. This fucking as of today, because it repeats itself as a press release. I forgot about that. As of today, 131 participants from 23 countries have confirmed their attendance. As ever, a diverse group of political leaders and experts from industry, finance, academia, and the media has been invited. The list of participants is available on www.bilderbergmeetings.org. The key topics for discussion this year include populism in Europe, the inequality challenge, the future of work, artificial intelligence, the U.S. before midterms, free trade, U.S. world leadership, Russia, quantum computing, Saudi Arabia, and Iran, the post-truth world, and current events. Founded in 1954, the Bilderberg Meeting is an annual conference designed to foster dialogue between Europe and North America. Every year, between 120 to 140 political leaders and experts from industry, finance, academia, and the media are invited to take part in the conference. About 2/3 of the participants come from Europe and the rest from North America, approximately a quarter from politics and government, and the rest from other fields. The conference is a forum for informal discussions about major issues facing the world. The meetings are held under the Chatham House rule, which states that participants are free to use the information received, but neither the identity nor the affiliation of the speakers nor any other participant may be revealed. Thanks to the private nature of the meeting, the participants are not bound by the conversations of their office, by the conventions of their office, or by pre-agreed positions. As such, they can take time to listen, reflect, and gather insights. There is no desired outcome, no minutes are taken, and no report is written. Furthermore, no resolutions are proposed, no votes are taken, and no policy statements are issued. So they claim that it's all like copacetic, but they also don't tell anybody what happens there. So, and they're talking about artificial intelligence. They're talking about quantum computing. They're talking about all of this with regard to populism, free trade, work, the inequality challenge. But the three subjects that are really interesting are Russia, Saudi Arabia, and Iran, and also the post-truth world, which is like the idea that truth is dead, so you should essentially try to find a way to manipulate fiction as much as possible. It's very Bernaysian. It sucks.
It sounds pretty shitty, but it also sounds kind of fun at the same time. Just because I like to fuck with words and play with words and all that good shit, and so I can distort things very easily, and that's why I love arguing with SJWs and communists and I can distort everything. I can play mental gymnastics all day. I'm fucking flexible as shit. I'm a goddamn contortionist, right? I can lick my own butthole with that. But the thing is, I love fighting with them because they twist it so much, and they're part of the issue too, where there's no truth. And they always said that this is truth, this is a statistic, and all this good shit. I'm like, you can have all that, but you're twisting the data. with what you're saying. You're interpreting it completely wrong, or you're interpreting it correctly, and you're flipping the shit on me. Same
Well,
kind
you
of
know,
things happen, though.
you know Callie relatively well, if I remember correctly, and so you know that that the people who are the best at these sorts of things are often the best at understanding how to manipulate people, because it's all about trying to find ways that people are manipulable and trying to find the ways to not be manipulated and also manipulate somebody else. You know, like
exactly. Why? You know, I play a dangerous game, right? You could say that someone could manipulate me. There's only two things in this world that can manipulate me. One I will not mention. The other is my dog. There you go. You already have one way that you can try to manipulate me. Other than that, good luck. And so there's things with everyone. As long as you know your weaknesses, you're good. And as long as you know your defenses, you're usually good. There's always going to be someone out there better than you, of course. I'm pessimistic. I believe that to the fullest extent. But the thing is, you can always combat it. And it's crazy how people's like, oh, well, you're just like taking a knife fight to a gun show. You know, you can't always win. It's like, no, or knife fight to a gunfight, or knife to a gunfight, whatever. You guys got it. But at the same time, you can be like, yes, I may have a knife and this dude has a gun, but I'm still going to try to take him down. I'm not going to sit there and let him fucking shoot me. I'm like, no, nigga, you're going down with me, bitch. Or I'm going to try to at least. And that's the thing. Most people don't try to fight anymore. They don't try to fight for reason. Logic.
Well, and and it's because they're fundamentally disinterested in it. They're not interested in truth or reason when they can just, you know, go with whatever the majority crowd says that seems to be saying what they want.
Yeah, mob rule is not a good thing. That's what, okay. You know how I mentioned that I like the Constitution and everything like that before, right? I love it. It's really great works. But the thing is, too, they weren't really for mob rule either. If you notice that when they wrote all the documents to found this nation, even they knew that mob rule was complete horsecock, and they didn't want mob rule either. But it always changes into mob rule. A state will always force mob rule because that's how it has to go, especially in a democracy. If it's not a democracy, well, okay, let me continue going with this. Even if you have a rebellion, the rebellion has to be the majority in order for it to take over and win, right? So you're always going to have majority rule. When there's a state, you always have to have majority rule, which is complete bullshit, and it sucks ass. Because it's going to happen one way it's going to fall or another way it's going to fall, and both involve the majority.
You sounded like you wanted to say something, Ian?
Oh, yeah. The United States being founded as a republic. The whole idea of a republic, and when I was a monarchist and before that I believed in this whole idea, I was like, oh, republics protect the majority. And of course, at the time, I didn't really think about it. But now, the majority, the literal smallest majority you can have is the individual. And of course, it's a total joke. Even if it was a republic, it never works, because the way it actually works is 3/5 the majority will always rule and trample over the minority. It doesn't matter what voting system, or if you want to call it a democracy or a republic, it doesn't matter, because the people that are ruling on what rules get made and what laws get passed, they're going to screw the minorities. And imagine that, people that believe in individual liberty and want to just be left the fuck alone, they are always a minority. So you're always screwed. Yeah, I actually started reading, it's called The Voluntarist Creed by Auberon Herbert. And I was trying to find in it, but he talks about the basic concept. And he was actually in government. Apparently he was in the House of Commons, and it just dawned on him one day as this is a joke. I'm like, there's no way this is ever going to help, and I need to get out of this. And of course, people demonized him for his beliefs, but he knew from being in the system as a representative of government that it was a total joke, and it never works. It does not work.
No, that's a given. You can see it within any kind of republic or democracy. Hell, even in Star Wars, it didn't fucking work. Are you kidding me? What the hell? We see it all the time. It's failing. Majority rule is never a good thing. In order to be fully within your liberty, is to allow everyone within our liberty, which has to allow the evil shit, like I was saying earlier, too. You can't try to stop things from happening. I mean, you can try to prevent things from happening. I'm not saying don't be safe. That's not what I'm trying to get at. It's just trying to, the more you restrict things, even if they are evils, and how we defined restriction earlier, the more that you're going to hurt the individual, the minority that we are discussing now. And each time you hurt the minority, you hurt yourself, essentially, because you are part of the minority. At the end of the day, you're always a part of the minority. And this is where Jordan Peterson talks to. I don't really listen to the guy too often. I try to, like I said, I have some issues with his thought processes for sure. But when he talks about it, he talks about, how the SJW warriors and all those people and like the new Marxist movement and all that good shit is always about, oh, well, the minority is getting fucked over, so we need to do this. It's like, no, you guys are actually doing more harm because you're not fighting for the minority, you're fighting for a collective. That's a difference. You're fighting for a mob rule. And so, like, it's fucked up in the most ridiculous ways, because they're like, oh yeah, I deserve this because I'm a human. Yeah, you are a human, but you're still fighting for a collective. Do you not see that? You need to fight for people. Like, okay, hold on. People are a collective, I guess. Like, if you're talking about races, right? Fuck. This is going to go into a whole little breakdown of philosophy, isn't it? I hope not. Hope you guys understand what I'm saying anyway. But when you fight for people, you're fighting for the biggest collective, right? So you need to fight for everyone, not just certain groups. Because if you try to fight for certain groups, you're always going to fuck someone else up at the end of the day. Like,
well, because you start to tribalize and you start to be on that side no matter what, hardline shit.
Exactly, which is why, like, I'm all for like fighting for gay rights. Like, when I was a minarchist and everything like that. Here's how my childhood was. Here's my political leanings. How I was at first. I went from a Catholic, Republican, I guess, when I was younger, and then when I started going into things, I was like, okay, cool, and then I went liberal. So like, oh yeah, these liberal guys, they seem to, want people to have their individual freedoms. I'm gonna go with that. I don't like the Christians very much. I don't see a reason to hate the gays at all and all that good shit, right? And so I was like, all right, yeah, I'm gonna fight for these gay rights, and I fought for the gay rights for people and all that good shit. And then I went to minarchism because I started seeing, like, all of a sudden I couldn't say certain things because I was hurting someone. I was like, wait, but guys, we were just fucking making jokes about Christians, and now we can't. Okay, well, I'm gonna go to this now. And I was a libertarian for a while, and then after libertarian, I was yeah, let's go a little bit deeper because we're still restricting something. And then I went deeper, and then minarchism hit, and then boom, anarchist. And I've been an anarchist for a fucking long time. I think 10 years or so. It's crazy.
And I've only been anarchist for like 5 years, but I hit it hard because I realized I didn't support the things that come inherently with the government. And I realized that it was like really undivorceable.
Yeah, and like my thing was too, because okay, I guess I was a minarchist for the most part. I like to say I liked anarchy. One of those punk rockers like, yeah, anarchy in USA. Except for I didn't really have a grasp of it. Like, I took AP government in high school and all that good shit, but I still didn't really have a grasp of it, because how they teach anarchy in government class is the only way you can have anarchy if it's one man on an island by himself, no one else. I was like, bullshit. But now I'm like, bullshit. But before I was like, oh, that makes sense. And so I was like, yeah, anarchy. I just want to be left alone. And I didn't take it any further until I heard about anarcho-capitalism. Like, what's that? And then I looked it up. I was like, oh, shit. Hell, yeah, this is pretty legit. And so that's where I went with that. And from there, I realized that's the only way you can fight for the individual.
And they'll either teach it that way, or they'll teach it that it's chaos because you don't have a central structure.
Yeah. They essentially say that, oh, because you don't have... They do make the point, which is the true point, that government is a social creation, right? You have to create it yourself, or people have to create it in order for it to be there. We create rules and we put them into force, right? Or we enforce those rules, however you want to see it. And by enforcing those rules, we create a social construct. So government is a social construct. So to say that you can't have, the only way you can't have government is to be one man online by yourself is correct if you follow that logic. However, it's also wrong because it equates, like we were talking about earlier on Sunday, governance with government.
Well, and of course the idea that, like, because government is like a mandation of certain ideas, and it's a monopolization of force to make sure that those ideas are mandated, because otherwise competition would take root and you wouldn't need to mandate your ideas, because good ideas don't require force. So, like, government in and of itself, it lacks the inherent mechanisms required for consent, much less consent itself. and it lacks the ability to respond effectively to people, so they leave. They eventually leave. And so then another government forms up, and the elites still win because royal bloodlines, they run through pretty much everything. And I realized that government basically amounts to a corporation that I wasn't willing to support, because that corporation was responsible for a huge amount of death and destruction and misery that I didn't like.
Yeah, exactly. And it always ends up too with especially with like nation states, right? Because you end up developing nations and borders and all that good stuff. Like, right, you essentially take private property and expand it to be for the collective, which is complete garbage. Because then it's essentially saying you don't own yourself, someone else always will. And so you always get these meetings like we have with the G7. You have people joining in on those and like discussing like, okay, so what are we going to do here? Well, I want my country's borders to be able to do this, and I want my people to be able to do that, and whatever. And, oh, this country is committing harms against humanity. We should probably stop them. Here's how we're going to do it. You guys do this. We'll do this. It's a whole 4D chess game, right? Especially with the intelligence community as well. And so when you have government, you always end up fucking the people, and you always end up hurting yourself. And the elites, they hurt themselves too while they do this. They think they're in the clear, but like they're not really either. They're hurting themselves just as much as they're hurting the people. They can just get away with it a little bit more and not feel as much of the effect, because they can just go, I'm just going to walk over here to my little island myself and have my own anarchy.
How would you respond? Yeah, I was about to ask how you would respond to this.
I've put this online a lot and talked about it in discussions with friends often. And basically, this is one of the like basic truisms of the world. And there are two groups of people. One group wants to control other people, and the other group doesn't. And true anarchists, voluntarists, are in the group that do not want to control other people. And really, it gets down to it being that simple. It doesn't matter what the government structure is. It doesn't matter what your motivations are in life. If you, for whatever reason, want to control other people because, you think you need to because they're dangerous, or if we left them alone, they'd do harm to me, you're a controller. You're in that bad group, according to me. I actually found the passage in the book that I wanted to read. It's like very short, but this again from the Voluntarist Creed by Auberon Herbert. And he goes, what does representative government mean? It means the rule of the majority and the subjection of the minority, the rule of every 3 men out of 5, and the subjugation of every 2 men. It means that all rights go to the 3 men, no rights to the 2 men. The lives and fortunes, the actions, the faculties, and the property of the 2 men, in some cases their beliefs and thoughts, so far as these last can be brought within the control of machinery, are all vested in the 3 men, as long as they can maintain themselves in power. The 3 men represent the conquering race, and the 2 men the conquered race. As citizens, the 2 men are de-citizenized. I can't even say that word. They have lost all share for their time in the possession of their country. They have no recognized part in the guidance of its fortunes. As individuals, they are de-individualized, and all of their rights, if rights they have, are on sufferance. So basically, he's saying, like, it goes all back to the voluntarism thing. Like, we don't want to control people, and we fully believe in self-ownership, and it's individual liberty. Like, I hear a lot of people say, like, oh yeah, I'm for liberty. And you actually ask them more in detail, and they're one of the controlling people, and they're like, no, they want their liberty. They don't want liberty for everybody. Like you're not free to be gay. You're not free to consume a certain plant. You're not free to believe a certain thing or have X amount of property.
Yep, I don't like doing it, so you can't do it either.
I'm for my projection of liberty.
That's a good point too. You can be for your projection of liberty. Nothing's wrong with that. Because your projection of liberty is what? Not harming anyone else? Just letting people do their own fucking thing, right?
That's what I was saying these people are.
Oh, yeah.
I wasn't even from... Go ahead.
You can split that too, though. Oh, sorry. You can split that too. You can make it to where you're for your projection of your liberty. Because your projection of... Everyone's for their projection of liberty.
I wouldn't say so, because I'm not trying to project any liberty onto anybody. I'm not trying to like define what their liberty is. Anything that they want to do with themselves, as long as they're not stopping somebody else from doing what they want to with themselves, is liberty. I'm not trying to project anything onto anybody. Whereas these people are trying to say that the only way you can have liberty is if you don't support or do support X, Y, Z, blah.
Gotcha. Yeah, I got you. Okay. Yeah, the definition of projection was, I think, where we lost each other. So I get you. Dude. Yeah. No worries.
Another crazy thing to think about with this too is, I didn't grow up a voluntarist, and I took a long path to it, from an anarchist to an anarchist. My wife was sick, but whatever. No excuses are valid here, of course. But this book that I'm reading, it's really just a statement that this guy wanted people to either agree or disagree to. And when he wrote it, he died before he can actually, put it out in the public to see who agreed with him or not. This was in like 1908, I think, is when this was published. And the education system did such a great job on me. I'd never even heard of this guy. I had no idea who he was. And these beliefs and the ideology behind it has been squashed, like, for, I don't know, 4 or 5 generations now. And just now, I think a large amount of people are waking up to this truth behind this type of ideology. And it's amazing, but I also think it's one of the reasons why I think the powers that be, or powers that shouldn't be, whatever you want to call them, are going to try to reset things sooner than later. Too many people are waking up to the truth, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, essentially. Oh, and there was also a story that was that me and Jeremiah got tagged to do from our buddy Steve the Dragon. And it was the EU shit that they're trying to pull with the illegal meme shit. Do you guys know what that's all about? What they're doing with that?
I just saw briefly, like, memes are going to be illegal now because, it's apparently IP, intellectual property.
Yeah, and there's a lot more to it too. They're pretty much trying to, and it's going to be a whole censorship thing as well, not just intellectual property and whatnot. But that's a huge part of it. But essentially, what they're doing with the EU is they're trying to pass this bill that you can get censored for differing opinion, and memes fall into that category because it's IP, right? But it also allows, it's very vague. Like, the vagueness of it is kind of ridiculous. Let me see if I can pull up the bill, what it's called, really quick, because I had it in my file, but let me see if I can pull it up.
I wonder how they plan to enforce that on the internet.
Well,
good luck.
This is an article. This is an article from Ars Technica. Article 13: Illegal memes, weak safe harbor, unpacking the proposed EU copyright overhaul. So I'll do like maybe a third of this article here after I close Facebook, because I'm getting a bunch of message bells here. Modern copyright rules fit for the digital age is how the EU Commission describes its proposals for the first major overhaul of EU copyright law since 2001. But a wide range of startups and industry, academic, digital activists, and human rights groups believe the key elements of the proposals will cause serious harm to the functioning of the internet in the EU and beyond. A vote taking place next week in the key European Parliament Jury Committee, JURI Committee, will determine the likely shape of the law. The most contentious element is Article 13 of the proposed directive, EU Speak for Law. It seeks to make internet services that host large amounts of user-uploaded material responsible for policing the holdings to prevent copyright infringement. Until now, companies have been able to draw on the safe harbor protection in the EU's e-commerce law, which online services enjoy when they are mere conduits. The new copyright directive would withdraw that protection for any service that optimizes content, which includes things like promoting, tagging, curating, or sequencing a site's contents. Most major online services, in other words, legal and technical problems. In the future, sites would have 2 options. They could enter into a licensing agreement for all the content uploaded by their users, although the proposed law does not explain how that could be done for fragmented markets where there is no single licensing body. Alternatively, online services must prevent the availability of their services of works or other subject matter identified by rights holders. The original text from the EU Commission speaks of using using content recognition technologies to achieve that. But the other key legislative bodies of the EU, the European Parliament and the Council of the EU, each of which produces their own versions of the proposed text, which are then reconciled in the so-called trilogue negotiations, avoid using this description. A recent version of the text from European Parliament WWIII committee says that the implementation of measures by service providers should not consist in a general monitoring obligation. That charge is because critics pointed out that EU's e-commerce law specifically forbids EU countries from imposing, quote, a general obligation on providers to monitor the information in which they transmit or store. However, there is no other way of proactively blocking any unauthorized copies before they're posted without checking every single upload against a list of copyright works, and that requires general monitoring. Alongside these legal issues, there are some serious technical problems with the approach. The volume of user uploads is such that the filters will have to be automated. But navigating the subtleties of copyright law, things like fair use, is hard enough for courts, let alone algorithms. Automated systems inevitably make mistakes, and the risks of financial penalties means that they'll be written to err on the side of caution by overblocking material. This is likely to have a chilling effect on free speech in the region and the EU public's use of copyright materials in the production of sharing of memes, parodies, and criticism. Public domain material is also likely to be blocked. So it's pretty terrible stuff. Yeah. I'll include a link to that article in the description.
Yeah, I don't see how they're going to get away with blocking that kind of stuff. I mean, I know they're trying to control the internet and all, but not going to be easy.
Well, and you know, to me, I mean, it sounds pretty bad right now. It really does. But to me, it sounds like another one of those things where they're gonna, oh no, they didn't, their way into a better, more controlled society. To me, like, I mean, while people are watching this hand, they're gonna be doing something with the other. Guaranteed. Like, they have so many EU officials at Bilderberg right now that I would be surprised if they weren't using this as a ruse and a cover.
Yeah, sorry about that. I didn't hear a good chunk of that while I was gone because my phone decided to glitch on me and kick me out of the call.
Well, basically, it sounds like the EU, and to me, this seems like a distraction, like I was just saying. But it sounds like the EU is going to try and block copyrighted material on a very specific level, where they would have to have active monitoring.
Yeah, but it's more than that too. It goes through a filter system.
Right. Well, and they said that it would either have to go through active monitoring, where every single one was checked, every single upload was checked, or it would have to go through a passive monitoring system through a very aggressive algorithm, which would side on the side of over removal, essentially.
Yeah, and and it boils down to what we have a problem with YouTube's thing. Like, you have the automatic hits for copyright claims, right? The automatic ones where you just have like a clip, and when it's like completely fair use. And so the part of that issue is if you upload something that is fair use completely and it falls within the lines, you're going to have an issue because they're going to be like, oh, we're tagging this, no one's going to see it, and you're going to get fined. Something like that, you know, especially like how many times you do it. I'm pretty sure they'll develop something like that down the line too. Do it enough times, we'll fine you, or you do it once, you know, this is going to happen, whatever the case may be. And so it even goes deeper than that. It's because it's going to be through a filter, right? And filters with technology has to have keywords, has to have key images, things like that, right? Key codes or whatever, like looking for something. And so the issue with that is, let's say if you have all those tag words we said in the last podcast happen, no one's going to see that shit. It might get flagged, boom, copyright claimed right there. And also it allows for infiltration on a further scale than what we have now. They can go deeper onto what we're having when we're trying to produce. If it's remotely close to something with mass flagging, you're going to have to be like, oh, shit, well, they were close enough. They said almost the exact same thing that this dude said, so we're going to flag that for copyright, and now this person can't make any money off of it, even though it was like ad lib or something, you know? It's like, it's quite bullshit. And so it's way bigger than just copyright claims. It is, but it will go deeper than just that, too. Because with intellectual property, too, that's a hard battle to fight, pretty much.
Well, and also it would be there to police speech, because you could say that this person used my blah blah and their blah blah, and fucking maybe Alinity might actually be able to copy strike PewDiePie.
Yeah, exactly. Like exactly, that's the point. And it's kind of bullshit when you think about it. It's because the wording is also so vague. It's kind of ridiculous. They're pretty much gonna stop speech around the world, and the internet is the biggest place for free speech, right? You could say it's America. We're pretty good, but you know, America's not that good. The internet has it all. Literally, the dark web, get yourself an onion router, whatever the fuck you want to do, you can see everything that this world has to offer. Okay, and so essentially by censoring the internet, they're going to be, because they're going to be doing it on a regular scale. Not everyone uses the dark web and shit like that. So, you know, they're going to be doing it on a basic platform, which is bad in itself. But then they're going to try to do it on the darker part of the internet, or the open part of the internet, the not as accessed part. And so that's going to be even harder too, because in the darker part is where we have all of the sex trafficking going on and all of the fucking drugs being sold and all that good shit, right? It's part of how you can get shit done.
And that's sort of like how prohibition works in general. Whenever you prohibit a substance or a thing, in this case, like digital transmission, it's going to drive it to the underground where people are already going to be next to people who are going to be very shady.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And so the internet's going to become a darker place at that point in time, because the FBI is having a hard time as it is tracing the people who are running dark websites and things like that that produce and run sex trade and all that good shit, you know? And so they're having a hard time doing that as it is. And they're going to try to, this is partially why they're doing it too, so they can add another layer onto how we can stop this. At least that's how they'll justify it for the most part. Because not everyone is a part of those. Not everyone, you know, wants to see that shit go down. I sure as fuck don't want to see that shit go down. But this goes back to what I was saying earlier. Trying to censor everything will also, or trying to catch all the bad will end up fucking a lot of the good.
What do you have? Do you have anything to say about any of this, Finian? Because I know you're probably consuming something right now that would have been illegal about a century ago.
Yeah, some mead. My glass is empty. Actually, I've been debating going to get more. Well, one thing to keep in mind with the internet is the governments of the world control it. They run the main nodes, the main networking nodes, and the hubs that make it actually the internet as we know it. And yeah, there's executive orders, and they basically have the power to turn it off. And they also have the power to filter whatever they want. This is one of the reasons, and I know, we've talked about it before, this is one of the reasons why people need to set up their own mesh networks. At the very least, you need to have like a ham radio technician license and know your neighbors and live in a good community and all that kind of stuff. Because if there is like a major war or something like that, which, maybe there is, maybe there won't be. I'm leaning, of course, that there's going to be. Then the internet's not going to be there. It's not going to exist as we know it today. So you're going to be down to community level only. So you better know how to use those radios. And, if you've got a wireless network set up, it better be run on solar and, using access points that are controlled by you and not by your ISP. Otherwise, it's not going to work. And yeah, they can lock down on basically anything they want. They could turn the entire internet into basically what it is in communist China right now. And yeah, it's extremely controlled, and there's no dark. I would doubt it, but I don't think there is. Maybe there is some secretive way to do it, but I doubt there's a dark net in China. They can probably.
I'm pretty sure there is, dude. They probably have mesh nets down there too, man.
Well, they do have mesh. Mesh is everywhere, but the closest thing to a darknet that anybody in China could do is something like ZeroNet, which is where you just download the entire site.
Gotcha. Yeah. I mean, they can't stop it completely, but it's all traceable too. So it's very difficult to see the location and even VPN and all.
Have you seen ZeroNet though?
I have not. No, he gave me some homework for the night. I'll have to look it up.
Yeah, because ZeroNet basically, it's designed to be a net that is designed to deliver the content no matter what the elites want. And effectively, you can download the ZeroNet framework, and you'll have instant access to a new sort of web, which still runs over the ClearNet, but can run over any net. And you download sites, like entire sites. I haven't set up my site yet, but I should definitely do that at some point. You need to host it yourself, though, and that's the thing that a lot of people can't do.
Yeah. And so like it's pretty crazy what they're trying to do. Like this goes back to like I don't know if they're because the U.S. I don't know if the U.S. will be affected by it for sure, especially with VPN runnings and everything like that, which is kind of crazy because we're not part of the EU Title 13, and so it's interesting how they're going to implement it and not affect U.S. customers for things and shit like that. You know, it's gonna be really difficult.
Well, I mean, if they try to implement it, and this isn't just a distraction.
Yeah, true.
It's sort of like you could
I
dangle
get
this in front of people's faces and say, like, you know, whoa, we might take away your internet, and then they'll pay attention to that.
kind of like with net neutrality again. Like
Yeah.
it's the new net neutrality, or it's the European version of net neutrality or whatever.
Well, and it's the version of net neutrality that is it's sort of like the obverse if you think about it, because it's saying that people should be able to essentially copyright troll and patent troll their way into to success or whatever.
Yeah, it's kind of insane, man.
Yeah.
But
anyway,
crazy shit.
My question is, do y'all have any other news stories you want to cover?
Not that I can really think of. There's let me see. There was.
What do you guys think of the Justice Department's report that's supposed to come out on Trump's birthday? You guys
I have not heard about that.
Yeah, so Greg Hunter was talking about this today in his news report or whatever he has. He's on YouTube, and he's like a right-wing Christian conservative type, but he puts out a lot of good interviews, so I'll listen to him just to keep that type of intel on my mind or on my plate, I guess. But yeah, he was talking about this. Basically, apparently Sessions has hired about 300 and something prosecutors, and it's like a huge amount that's unprecedented. And the rumor is that they're for all these sealed indictments. And there's 2 report dates coming up. Apparently, some major report comes out on the 8th, and then one comes out, I'm trying to see when it is exactly because I forgot the date, June 14th. The one on the 14th is supposed to be the report related to Comey and the Clintons. And of course, the conspiracy or the rumor behind that one is that a lot of dirt's going to come out on the Clintons, and it's going to lead to a bunch of people's arrests, basically. And of course, that's linked back to Sessions and all these prosecutors. So all this stuff that's supposedly been going on and no one's been doing anything about, actual treason by the Clintons and treason by Obama, all this has supposedly been documented, and they're about to go live with it, so to speak. And yeah, it's supposed to happen like tomorrow. So we'll see. I don't have any faith in it. Like my wife said that tonight. She's like, yeah, whatever, nothing's going to happen. And more than likely nothing will, but we'll see, because supposedly this stuff's been in the works for a while. And, they need to be brought to justice. I don't think they will, but we'll see what happens. Hopefully it happens. I don't think it's going to, though.
Yeah, well, yeah, and if it does get proven out, they'll just have something else that comes out so that they can sweep it under the rug. I mean, Obama was a criminal too, so.
Yeah, and of course this whole thing gets into the child trafficking thing and the Clinton Foundation's activity related to it. It's a very deep and ugly conspiracy that's been going on, or I guess illegal activity, not a conspiracy.
Well, that's still a conspiracy.
Yeah.
That's
pretty intense
going on.
I think that I don't know what will happen with that if the Clintons they have been doing a whole bunch of sketchy shit. We've all known this, but now I guess there's going to be proof or something, right? That's the gist of it.
Yeah, it's related to this. Yeah, it's related to like the Spygate thing and lots of things basically having to do with them. I mean, like billions of dollars have been stolen and no one's been held accountable for it. So.
Gotcha. Yeah, like they can they'll prosecute them, but they won't get even a harsh sentence or some shit. You know that, or a pardon's gonna happen or whatever the fuck. They're gonna weasel their way out.
Yeah, I don't have much faith in it actually resulting in any real justice, but you can hope. It's interesting that the reports coming out and all these sealed indictments supposedly, and then all these new prosecutors being hired. Who knows? They might actually be planning on doing something about it. We'll see.
Hopefully.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Appreciate something actually getting done. But yeah, I don't know. It all depends. Are they gonna have a jury? Is it just gonna be, how's the case gonna go? They're gonna have the best fucking lawyers and shit like that. Because it's not actually proof too. They're gonna have to have a fucking trial for all this. And it's gonna take fucking years. Like Hillary might die by that point, Shit.
Yeah.
It's either gonna be drawn out too fucking long, or nothing's gonna happen to them.
Well, and who's going to be thrown under the bus as the primary, as the source of the problem, so that Hillary, and whoever else can get away.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They're like, oh well, we did this under extortion or something crazy like that,
Yeah, I forget Greg Hunter's. I can look it up later, or you guys can, but I forget who the guest was. But he was basically saying that the rumor is that the Clintons are going to be the fall guys on this. So the so-called oligarchs and the elites are going to give them up, just to avoid seeing any justice themselves.
Want to hear a conspiracy theory then? Here's one for you, just because with all this talk. I just kind of come up with it. It might be crazy. I don't know. It probably is. But fucking Bill Clinton admitted to being sexual assaultist, right? Some shit like that. Slowly getting, chopped at the board. Hillary Clinton was almost made president and chopped off at the board. If they're playing his chess game, maybe they are like, oh shit, we're going to build them up and then we're going to break them down and then we're going to turn them in because people are seeing that they're fucktards. Here they go. They're all fall guys.
Maybe.
I don't know. Could be.
I don't know, because I always like the line from Mortal Techniques, Rich Man's World. They don't want fucking, what was it? And they don't want me indicted because they don't want my dirty laundry aired when I fight it. Don't get my lawyers excited because what good is a law if I can't rewrite it? So, I mean, I think about it in that sort of terms. I think it's probably just transient, whatever change happens anyway.
Yeah, true.
Personally, I mean, but I can't just enjoy things.
I don't really enjoy things either, but it's all good, man. No worries.
Yeah.
I enjoy arguing with people and being a shitlord.
Well, and you'll be definitely happy with Sunday, which is going to be, and because I'm gonna call this at 5:30, but I'm gonna promo next Sunday, this Sunday, which is gonna be a Father's Day gift to all the fathers out there. We're gonna fuck up feminism. We're gonna dismantle it for the idiot thing that it is. Because modern day feminism is either for very serious manipulators who want to use people's vaginas to empower them to politics, or for idiots who think that's that anything is fine as long as it comes from one of them. So I mean, there's plenty to go at, and I don't want to go too far into it, but suffice it to say, I've got a lot to say about this subject because I've been looking into it for a while, and I thought that we'd take a break from the hardline conspiracy politics and move on to a different conspiracy, which is the fact that SJWs have corrupted a lot of the way that this conversation works.
Oh, hell yeah, dude. That's going to be a fun one for sure. If you want me on that one, I'm glad to join you.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I'm going to reach out to the Honey Badgers on Twitter to see if they're interested. I know Hannah Wallen might be, because she's also a libertarian, so...
Okay, cool. There's a couple good. I could try to talk to as well. They don't take me seriously at all, but I'm like, hey, if you want to debate me, come on and debate me.
Now, what were you saying, Finian?
There's just a distinction between the people that want equal rights and then, of course, the people that want special rights. And, of course, that topic gets into that. Definitely a big...
Well, of course, I personally don't believe in equality, but we'll get into that next week. I can sound like Hitler then.
No, yeah. There's nobody's equal. There's nothing that's fair. By equality, I only mean we should be equal under the law, and the law should be very simple. That's all I mean by that.
Yeah,
no special rights because of your sexual preferences or anything like that.
I'll get into it more next week, but I sort of disagree with that. I think law has been monopolized by the state to be a universalistic preference, but basically that law, like if it's valuable at all, is property rules. And you know, I don't think any equality between property rules should exist unless people consent to it. So I don't think equality is ever a proper goal. To me, what's a proper goal is self-ownership and what respects that, and you know, full stop. Whatever else is fine. You know, which is why I still identify as a libertarian brutalist and not one of the bleeding hearts. After that whole schism happened. But anyway, y'all plug your shit. Tell people where they can find what you do, and then feel free to show up to the Father's Day special where we're gonna fuck up feminism, because that should be fairly entertaining.
Cool. Thanks. Yeah, I'm looking forward to Sunday. Again, I'm on Steemit as Finian. It's F as in Frank, INNIAN. And I'm also on Twitter as Liberty Pro PI. Thanks, guys, and have a good night.
I am Idiot's Query. You can find me on YouTube, Facebook, or not Facebook, Twitter, and Discord. So far, I'm trying to create other shit. I might be making a Steemit here soon.
Yeah,
anyway,
definitely.
shit talk.
Finny and I will get you hooked up.
Word. Then I'll definitely try to do that. If they have an app, I'll get on that shit. But you can find me there, and you will see me spew bullshit. I like to shit talk a lot. I make a lot of fucked up jokes. Pretty much the only things you should take seriously from me are my ideas and the logic and how I get there. You can definitely tell the difference when I'm being serious and when I'm not, I hope. Anyway, that's where you can find me, and thanks for having me on, Jeremiah.
Hey, nuances for Nazis, fucking fascist. Okay, well, see you next week. And well, see you on Sunday anyway. I don't know, it's next week according to some calendars. And see y'all around the corner. I hope we get as many people for the Friday episode as possible, because I want that chat to be buzzing with shitlords. I want it to be a hive of shit on Sunday. So feel free to come in, feel free to invite your friends, and spread the word. This has been Real News Wednesday, and signing out.